All right. Peace and shalom, family. Peace and shalom. What's going on? What's going on? Give it a few minutes for y'all to come on in the room. Shout out to W Mac in the building. No Button or Aharon. Shalom. John and Dorsey. I see you. Shalom. Lizzie Liz in the building. Shalom. Yapa Kalaya Kimberly M. Shalom. G Brown. Shalom. I see you. Come on in, family. Shout out to my brother Joseph Grin in the building. Sister Santawa, shalom. Make sure you guys share this link on all social media outlets. Shout out to Yeti Hebrew Drew in the building. Scott Garrett Headley, shalom, shalom. He says, Chag Yom Kippur. Okay, we're going to address that today as well. Shout out to Ace. I see you. What's going on? What's going on? All right. Shalom to you as well. Yehuda Dawid, shalom. Sadiqia, Shemuel, shalom, shalom. Karima Lyricist, shalom. I see you. Lisa Anderson, shalom. Avia V, shalom. What's going on? What's going on? Come on, family. Come on and pile on in. Let's enjoy this Friday evening, early Shabbat. So Shabbat shalom to y'all who are in here and keep the Shabbat on this time. Shout out to Mikhail Van Nett, shalom. Jaslyn Berry in the building, shalom, says shalom. All right, come on in, come on in. Come on in. The water is nice. Water is nice. It's going to be like a spiritual, metaphorical pool party. All right. But, you know, sometimes the trolls come in to the party, pool party, and they just let loose in the pool. You see this yellow mist form around them. Trolls always trying to rain on the party, man. You know what I'm saying? People got to get out the pool and everything like that. So, but trolls, you have an opportunity towards the end on the Q&A if you want to interact. You know, we always give y'all an opportunity. All right. Shout out to Zen Humara in the building. Shalom. Yeah, I know that's funny, right, Liz? All right, so come on in, family. Come on in. We'll give you another minute or two. All right, make sure you guys share this link. We're going to go live. We're going to go live. All right. Is that everybody so far? If so, let me know, and I'll get started. All right. See, I mentioned trolls, and several people just jumped off. They signed out. Shout out to Reginald Roberts in the building. Shalom. All right. So we about to get started. If anybody in here wants any memorabilia or items and accessories, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, let me know. Send us an email, and I just dropped the pen. Send us an email at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up. All right. That's what this pen is right here that I use. All right. Shout out to Jen and Jew 7-Day Theory. Luke 12:51 Truth. Shalom. Thomas Jackson, I see you. Shalom. All right. So as y'all coming on in, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you share this video. If you're brand new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Go back and check out the archives. I promise you'll find something you like and that you will enjoy. And if this channel is not for you, share it with somebody who'll be interested in these subject matters. All right. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So let me get the updates out the way. And then from there, I'm going to address Day of Atonement. Got a couple of scriptures to go into, a couple of things to expound on. And then after that, we're going to do a quick Q&A towards the end. And then I'm signing out for the night. All right. Okay. All right. John and Dorsey. Actually, yes, because shout out to Seth. He showed me a way that you can have things shipped to other countries for cheaper than the post office, I believe. So I'm gonna go back and look into that method of shipping that he shared with me so we can get it out to you in Australia. I know the customs and taxes and postage on that is going to be pretty heavy. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Shout out to Royal Gem in the building. I see you, sis. Scott Garrett Hadley says, I watched the Atonement of Sin. Oh, you watched that video? Capital punishment, human sacrifice for the atonement of sin in the Bible. Yeah, that was a serious lecture, man. It's pretty lengthy too. Like, there's a lot of information. It's gonna take you several days or even weeks to go through. There's a lot of information in there, but that was a pretty good lecture. All right. So shout out to Lifted. You asked me about marijuana smoking. Well, it all depends on what you identify as being Kodesh, right? Being Kodesh. So if you feel that your body is set apart and you don't want to bring any pollutants into your body, because if you're going to smoke marijuana, it's best to vaporize it, right? Because if you use anything else to roll up with it, like a white owl, something like that, you're bringing contaminants and excess carbon into your lungs, and you cause destruction over time of your bronchial tubes, and you cause mucus buildup in the alveoli sacs, which makes it difficult to transfer oxygen to your those sites, which is your red blood cells. And just a whole cascade effect of things happening. You start to transform the cells in your lungs. You can start to get lung cancer, etc. So if you're going to smoke marijuana, if you're going to do that, it's best to vaporize it, right? Now, if you're going to ask me, was the ancient Israelites smoking, rolling up joints and smoking weed? There's nothing in the scriptures that showcases that. However, was marijuana used as a form of a hallucinogen, right? Hallucinogen or a stimulant in the ancient Near East? Yes, it was. It was imported into the region of the Levant and other areas, and it was used as a means to stimulate people to, you know, go into a trance, you know what I'm saying, and so forth. Matter of fact, when you go to Tel Arad, where they have like that replicated temple, mini temple that's there, they actually found cannabis or marijuana there. And it was used almost like part of the incense, right? However, we don't have anything being mentioned like that in the scriptures in the inner sanctuary, right? But however, offset sanctuaries, we have evidence of marijuana found there, right? Now, we don't know the entire context, even though the best we can gauge is that it's in an area where it will be considered the inner sanctuary. We're going to touch on inner sanctuary in a second. There's something in particular I want to bring out. However, it wasn't rolled up in smoke, but it was there and it was burning and it was almost like incense. So obviously they're going to catch contact and zone out. You know what I'm saying? So that offset temple or that offshoot temple or sanctuary that was created in Tel Arad, that's something on its own. However, I'm not going to tell you to do it or not to do it. I'm going to say that that's between you and the Most High. My thing is, I'm not going to pollute my body by smoking cigarettes, weed, or anything else like that. I used to smoke weed or marijuana back in the day. I have since stopped. I think I'm 15 years clean from marijuana. About 15 years. About 15 years clean from marijuana. You know what I'm saying? So that's me. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you choose to do it, that's on you. Are there any prohibitions against smoking marijuana in the scriptures? No, there's nothing in the statute, laws, commandments saying that thou shalt not smoke marijuana. It's not there, right? So if you choose to do that, that's on you. However, what I will say is that there are peer-reviewed articles on the effects of marijuana and how it works and what the side effects are. So I would say be very, very careful and sensible to the data that exists in regards to the studies done on marijuana, because there are some benefits and there are some detriments. You got to outweigh the good with the bad. You know what I'm saying? You could just avoid it altogether, right? And not have to worry about that. But if you decide you want to engage in it, my suggestion is read the data that exists, go to NCBI and look up all the peer-reviewed articles on there on marijuana to see the benefits and the detriments, right? And then if you're gonna proceed to do it, I would say use a vaporizer and inhale it that way. Do not roll it up as a joint or in a white owl or anything like that. Use a vaporizer. But that's completely up to you. Me, myself, I don't smoke weed, and I'm not an advocate of people doing it recreationally. If people want to do it medicinally, that's up to you. Recreationally, I'm not an advocate anymore because I don't smoke it. but I'm all for the liberty of people who want to engage in that. So if you want to do that, that's totally your business. I just don't engage in it. It's not something that I do anymore. Okay. So that's my position on that. And again, because there is no thou shalt not, low, whatever, in regards to smoking weed, I avoid it altogether. Right. I don't deal with it myself personally, because now you're left up to make that decision yourself. And because it's not there in the statute, laws, and commandments, I cannot say somebody that you're commanded not to do that. I got to be honest. All right. And that's my position on that. Okay. All right. So just hold on for a second, fam. I know you're asking questions. Let's just hold off on the questions until we get to the end, towards the end of the show, after I do what this is focused on. And you'll see some of that that's there in the description. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to that. All right. So let me give a couple more shout outs. I see a couple more people join in. Shout out to Zeph in the building, Oriyahu, Ben Shem, Shalom, Crown Hair, Shalom, Deanne, Denaj, Shalom, G Brown, Shalom, Yasun, Shalom, Remarkable Ministries in the building, Shalom. That's all I see for right now. So again, family, make sure you share this video. Shout out to Elijah, Yisrael, my brother, Jeremiah, Warfare, Rebirth of a Nation, Shalom. You guys make sure you go back to the previous live stream that I did and check out that one that I did with my brother Jeremiah, Warfare, Rebirth of a Nation, and support that anime project that we're doing on behalf of the kingdom. All right. Shout out to Kenny Love in the building. Janae, Shalom. Feed the Spirit. I see you. Shalom. All right. Thank you for joining in, family. Thank you for joining in. Again, share this video. Share this video. Hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying it. If you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. All right. And don't forget to hit that bell and select all. Shout out to the Elder Gurney Mosley in the building. Shalom. What's going on, Elder? All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's get the updates out the way. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for supporting our COVID vaccine religious exemption initiative, which is we draft up a customized or personal letter for you of exemption, religious exemption, excuse me, for the vaccination, as well as the accommodations that you will make for the company, so that way you yourself don't become a health hazard to your coworkers, etc. So far, we've had about maybe almost 30 people who requested the letter. Everybody who has hit the link and made their donation, you can find that link in the description below if you're interested in getting that letter. We have responded to everybody who has hit that link. Those of you who are $50 Patreon members and our KHM members also have sent requests. We've also sent a response to you as well. And those of you who we've approved, we're working on it. Now, what's the best way to get approved? And here's the difference between us and other people who are doing religious exemption letters. We're not just going to give you anything. Now, if you just want something generic, we can send that to you, right? However, we've done our due diligence and research to provide you a letter that we're giving you. It's going to have our letterhead on it. I will also sign off on it if you need a religious scholar to back up your position, right? So the letter that we provide, I'm there as well as a point of reference for that. However, you do assume full liability for the content therein, because this is your convenience to your job. However, if they ask for some degree of verification of these beliefs, then I will be on deck to everybody that we sent the letter to and who has received it via email from us. Okay. Now, if anybody got it any other way and we have not sent it via email, we are not co-signing that. Okay. We only co-signing that it's been received via letter, and we haven't given many out. It's maybe only a handful we've given out so far. The rest we're still working on and processing it. But in ours, not only do you have our letterhead, not only do you have us lay out and citing various laws that provide protection for you to propose this right and exercise this right. We also outline the various aspects of inoculation and why we're against it and why we don't want to be party of that based on Torah and the rest of the scriptures. And we also lay out 5 points of accommodations that we will provide to the business and place of work to the employer, so they can feel safe that even though I'm not taking the vaccination, I'm still going to be responsible, right, while I'm at the workplace. Okay. And then from there, we have the notary section template already set up for your appropriate state and county. And then we tell you how to deliver it, right? There's various ways you can deliver it. You can hand deliver it. And if you're going to hand deliver it to the head of HR, right, you need to get it copied by HR, have them sign it and date it. Okay. And then you receive that copy. That is a receipt that they've received it, and they can't say they did not get it from you. You also can send an email. Okay. Send it via email, because emails also stamp that you have sent it to HR and they received it. And if you're getting a lot of pushback, you can also send it via certified mail to registered mail. So that way you get confirmation has been received. And if anything ever happens, some kind of civil litigation, you can use the postmaster and the notary on your behalf to verify that everything that you place in that document was true and they affirmed it, and that the actual letter has been delivered to the company. So my preference is to try the first two. And if you want to go to registered mail and or certified mail where you get signature confirmation, it is totally up to you. Registered mail, they put it in a lock box and they seal it. You know what I'm saying? They make sure to get from one point to another. That's why it's more expensive, right? So these are ways to provide it to your job. And then also what we mentioned before is that you also agree to have a free consultation with Naturopath to Eden, because if we're going to give you this letter, we want to make sure that you have a health regimen in place so that you may stay healthy. All right. That if you do catch COVID, that you will be asymptomatic because your body will be in prime tip-top shape. Okay. So this is why before we give it to you, want to make sure that you also agree to do the consultation so we can make sure you stay healthy, you have a healthy regimen, etc. So the way we approach this is much different than people that will give you a generic letter and say, here you go, right? We're not going to do you dirty like that, right? Because we're going to make sure we back it as much as we can, and that we're going to put provisions in there to ensure that you understand how to be responsible in the workplace and in your personal life to stay healthy. Okay. Because if you get sick and you do get COVID and have to take off from work, it will work against you. Okay. So this is important. All right. Will the exemption letter work for the state of New York? Yes, it will. Now, again, what we say, this is not 100% guarantee. Anybody that 100% guarantees that their religious exemption letter will work, they're not telling you the truth. There's no 100% guarantee. However, because of our research, and you know we do diligent research, our pilot findings, as we've given out a small amount first before we started working on a handful of the requests that we've been getting, we have a 90%, I think it's 87 or 90% success rate, right? Now, that doesn't mean just because we did it on a pilot, it will be that case all abroad. However, there's a high chance that you will get accepted because of what we lay down in there. Now, what we require from you, again, all of this is when you hit that link and you take care of the donation, and then we email you in a follow-up. We need the state, the county, the town or city that your employer is at, where you work at, your physical workplace. We need the name of the employer. And then we also need a copy, whether it's a screenshot, whether it's email, attachment, or whatever. We need a copy of the employee handbook's policy on religious exemption from vaccinations. Or we also need from you a religious exemption from vaccination form. A lot of jobs provide forms. Let me show you an example of that form. This right here is one of the forms. This is from Cook County Sheriff's Office, COVID-19 vaccination religious exemption accommodation request form. All right. So see if your job has one of these forms. If so, it makes everything much easy. If your company, that's the company that you work for and the employee you work for also has that exemption in the employee handbook, it makes this process easy. Those are the ones that we're able to process quickly and get out the door. If your company, number one, if they have not mandated, you can stay on file for the letter in the event they do mandate it. And the reason why we're not telling you to rush and submit it is because you stand out like a sore thumb and you will be on their radar. And there's no need to do that. However, if something begins to be mandated, then a lot of people on that job in that company is going to be sending letters, so you will not stand out, right? However, you can speak with us in advance. We can get everything set aside for you. So when that day comes, we can send you the letter. If your job, whoever you work for, does not have in a policy a religious exemption from vaccinations and or a religious exemption form like that, then we can still give it to you, but the chances of success is going to be much less. Okay. So this is being honest and explaining to you how this thing works. So nobody has a sure bulletproof method of creating for you a COVID vaccine exemption letter, a religious exemption letter that's going to provide you 100% guarantee. It's not true. And I'm not going to sit here and deceive you. I'm not going to sit here and make something up. I'm not going to do that. So the reason why we ask for a donation for doing this letter is because it takes time to process it, to customize it, and to back it, right? So when you give that donation, we put our stamp on it and say, here you go, right? But we're asking you, to please be mindful of things that we put in the response email and understand what you're agreeing to, understand what the realistic expectations are before proceeding forward. So we want to thank everybody so far that has patronized us, has supported the ministry and our efforts to do this to ensure that people are keeping their jobs. All right, because so far we've saved about 9 jobs so far. 9 jobs so far. Right now, we still got a lot more to process, but 9 people got their job saved because we sent out this letter. 9 people already. All praise to the Most High. You know, and some of those people, I would say, majority of them have big families. Right? They would have been, I mean, without a job, they would have been looking. It would have been really bad. So I think the Most High that we've been able to help at least 9 people, and we're looking to help much more. All right. Okay, so that's the religious exemption letter, and I just want to put it out there. Also for Natural Path to Eden, which is our health, naturopathic health consultation program, where we give free consultations, and if people want further services from us, we provide a regimen service, which is personalized based on your particular ailment, or if you don't have an ailment, you want a maintenance plan to maintain good health, or if you have a ailment or a disease where you have the symptoms under control, that's part of our moderate package. And part of our severe package is if you have a disease or ailment and you don't have the symptoms under control, that's part of that package. We're looking for people to sign on as consultants. If you're interested in signing up to be a consultant where we train you, or if you're somebody that has background experience in the realm of the medical field and or the field of naturopathy, homeopathy, etc., please email us at naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat for you, naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. Now, if you're interested in getting a consultation from us, send that request to the same email address, naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. All right. So please, if you're interested in helping the community, if it's your ministry, your assignment, your purpose in this truth is to help people in regards to health, we need you on our team. Please email us ASAP. Join our team. We'll put you through the process, the training, etc. You're going to do pilot calls to speak with people, the test calls, etc. We're going to make sure that you are thoroughly vetted and that you are thoroughly equipped before you start working with people. So we have a whole process in place. And if you are interested in signing up because you need a consultation on how to maintain good health, or if you have a sickness, ailment, or disease, and you want to know how to overcome it, how to recover from it, how to maintain it, you know, in good spirits, how to keep your mental, your mind, body, soul, your emotional, your spiritual, like we inspect everything because we look at things holistically. Okay. The tagline is holistic synergy. Holism, or being holistic, is looking at each and every part and how they're interconnected. And the synergy is ensuring that the interconnectedness of everything is working together for your good. Okay. So again, you can email us at naturopathoeden@gmail.com if you want to sign up. And number 2, if you need assistance from us for a free consultation, hit the same email address. Okay. All right. So also anybody out there that needs assistance in regards to debt elimination, credit repair, we're here to help and assist. Okay. You can email us at Jubilee Manumission. JubileeManumission@gmail.com. We will provide a free consultation to you. And if you would like for us to move forward and do the process for you, we can, but we will give you enough information on your own so you can do it yourself. I've dropped free game on here several times in regards to health and nutrition, in regards to debt elimination, credit repair. I put free game out on here, right, in several videos. But if you want us to work with you, right, outside of just the information we've shared with you, we're more than happy to do it. So if you need to get some debts eliminated, if you need to get your credit repair, you need consultation and to learn how to be fiscally responsible, email us at jubileemanumission@gmail.com and we'll take care of it for you. All right. And if you want to be a consultant, because also our consultants for Naturopathic Eden, when we have clients or people who are patronizing us, patrons who sign up for our regimen plans, you get paid off of the regimen plan. All right. If you want to be somebody to refer us and put the word out there, we provide you with an affiliate link and you will get paid passive income for every one of those clients that we process a regimen for. Right. So we're also creating these programs not only to provide free education to the community, but also if the community who's patronizing us wants to sign up for our regimen plans or other services that are paid services that we offer, once they get their free consultation, this is the way that we're providing jobs for the community. All right. We are providing jobs for the community. There's several people that are eating off of these programs and our services that we're offering. And we want to continue to create more, bring more people on, because we want to take care of our community. We want to be that one-stop shop that once you come into this awakening, if you need this, this, and that, KHM got you. All right. And that's what we're here to do. All right. And I appreciate everybody that's patronized us so far and all of our team that is part of these programs and services. Shout out to y'all, and I appreciate y'all. All right. Now, also, we are transitioning away from our call center, right? Call center that we previously was working with is going to end business soon. So now, if you look in the description below, and you'll see it going across the ticker as well, there's a link for our Squarespace scheduling assistant. So you click on that link, and what you'll do is you'll see a calendar open up. You can choose a date and time of availability that you have and that I have on my calendar. Select that, hit enter, fill out the 4 questions that are there, and then that will be similar to you calling in. All right. Now, currently, we're not receiving any calls, but you can text us still. You can still text us. And when you receive a call from me, it will be from the same number. It's just that if you call that number, you may get a voicemail, right? You're not going to get anybody directly. Okay. So please refrain from calling a number. You can text the number, but use the link in the description below if you want to set up a phone appointment to converse with me or somebody on my team. All right. Okay. I want to make sure I get that over to y'all. All right. So now also, as you can see in the description, those of you who don't have the KHM app, you see in the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, you want to download the My One Church app, open the app and put 30064 in the zip code field and hit enter. Then select Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and that'll bring you right into our app. Within the app, you can sign up for membership. You can look at our calendar. You can watch lessons on there. There's 2 Bible study software programs that's on there. You can also join groups, etc. Now, new functionality for the app is coming soon, I think in this month. So by November, there'll be new functionalities in the app where you can chat, you can communicate on discussion boards, you can see other people in the group and communicate with them. So currently, access to the software outside of membership is just solely through the app. But if you're a KHM member, we give you access to the online software that you can utilize through any web browser on your phone, tablet, laptop, or PC. And there you have full-fledged permissions to do much more. You can download files, upload files. You can join discussion boards, see group calendars and the general calendar. You can update your information. You can add an image, etc. Right? So if you're a KHM member and you don't have access to the online software, please let me know so we can hook you up. All right. We have new admins in place that will take care of all of our members, our groups, and our chapters of the organization, so we can be even more organized and structured and more responsive, right, to requests that come through. All right. So shout out to our new admins. Thank you for signing up and being part of the team and for your devotion and commitment to KHM. We appreciate that. All praise to the Most High. All right. Now, also, we are in need of administrative assistance. So if you have clerical experience, if you have administrative experience, we need you, right? Please hit us up. We have stipends available for compensation as well for our volunteers if they request it. The stipends that we pull out of the pool of funds that's placed into the membership pool, right? So we're able to give you compensation as well. So please sign up for our admin group. If you want to sign up for our admin group, please email us at khmgroupemail@gmail.com. And I'll put that. Shout out to my brother, Coach Vaughn Parker. We got to talk ASAP, my brother. ASAP. My brother right there. Shalom to you, King. We got to talk ASAP, Vaughn. All right. That's the email right there. So if you're interested in the admin position, please email us there. Also, we're looking for graphic designers, marketing gurus. So if you have experience in marketing, experience in graphic design, if you're a video editor, anything along those lines, please also email us at khmgroupemail@gmail.com, because we're looking to also bring people on board where we want to give you stipends for compensation. And we're also looking to hire part-time for these roles as well in the near future. All right. So please, anybody that has these skills and so forth, please hit us up so we can bring you on in. All right. All right. So with that, I think that I'm done with that. So what I'm going to do before we get started, shout out to Genesis 49ers in the building, Matthew Ben Israel, Shalom, Thank you for joining us. My brother Jen and Drew, 7-Day Theory. Shalom. Mother Beulah in the building. Shalom. Thank you for joining. Gartrell, McKinney. Shalom. Ashar. Yahuda 144K. Shalom. Sister V Love, I see you. Shalom. Thank you for joining us. Sister Bevy Bev in the building. Shalom. Moshe the Hebrew. Shalom. Shine. Carpentor. Shalom. Kenny Love. Shalom. I see you. Shadow. J Lockhart 25. Shalom to y'all. Thank you for joining. Do it for the nation. I see you, King. Make sure you guys, as you're coming on in, share this video on all social media platforms. If you're enjoying the content thus far, hit the thumbs up button. And if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button, click that bell, select all so you can get locked in. All right. Shout out to Stephanie Joseph and Kelly V in the building. Shalom. I see y'all. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to tackle the Day of Atonement real quick. We're going to go into some things real quick on Day of Atonement. I'm not going to get too deep with it, but I'm going to bring some things out for further consideration. But we're going to jump into it because this is the season. 'Tis the season for Yom Kippur. 'Tis the season for Day of Atonement. 'Tis the season for Sukkot. 'Tis the season for Teruah. 'Tis the season. All right. So thank you. Kelly V said she's a newbie. No problem, Kelly V. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're enjoying the content, go back in the archives and check out all the other videos that we have. We have tons of content. I promise there's something there that you would like. We have hundreds of videos with tons of information on a myriad of different things. And also, let me shout this out real quick, since you're brand new as well. If you do like it, and there's some content that you don't see on the channel, please sign up for our Patreon. On our Patreon, we have tons of content on the Patreon. Let me show you some of the new content we placed on our Patreon. We typically do this as well before we start, because this is the 24/7, 365 after party. We have tons of content on the Patreon. So if you don't see a lot of activity on this YouTube channel, it's because it's going down on Patreon. All right. So let me go ahead and give you all a glimpse of this real quick. Share my screen. All right. So this here is the Patreon. All right. Let me zoom in. All right, here it is. Okay. We have about 5 levels. We had 385 patrons, but at the first of the month, Patreon normally does their processing. So a lot of times we lose like almost 50 patrons through that processing, because sometimes some of the payments don't go through. So anybody that's gotten an email, check your email. If you can't see the content, it's probably because your payment didn't go through. A lot of times because cards expire, people change their cards, their method of payment, or whatever the case may be. And typically this number will jump back up within 7 days, right? Within a weekend, it'll jump back up. But we're getting close to 400. As soon as we hit 400, we have an $800 HP laptop that we're going to give to a child from K to 12 who writes a 1-page essay on how the truth, coming into the truth, being raised in the truth, converting to the truth, has changed their lives and how they're changing the lives of others. All right. So as soon as we hit 400 patrons, we're going to give out this laptop. We'll put it up as a giveaway, and you just have to have your child submit a paper to us, and they can win, be eligible, and they can win this laptop. And we're going to try to do that as frequently as possible every time we hit a milestone. Besides the giveaways we do on the Patreon, we're going to do something external for the children. All right. So scrolling down, just so you guys can see, we have tons of content, right? And if we add up all this content, we go with 488 plus 23 plus 2 plus 2 plus 63. That's 578 posts. I think it's a little bit more than that. 578 posts that we have on here. As you can see, DivineProspect posted 10 times in the last week. That's how often I post on this Patreon. There's tons of content. Anybody that's in the chat, that's part of the Patreon, can co-sign. This is the best Patreon on Patreon, okay? Because we don't just spoon feed you. We teach you how to use a spoon and feed yourself, all right? So we have this post right here. During the transatlantic slave trade, African enslavers from West Central Africa targeted outsiders amongst the natives for enslavement. We have a great source on that. All right, we have a book suggestion. Why Read the Bible in the Original Language? An excellent book, and it's a very short read. It's under 200 pages. excellent book to give you examples of why we should learn some of the original language so we can understand the translations that we have today and or get more depth when it comes to our study. And again, on the Patreon, we have a pinned post once you sign up of our resource guide with a link that you can click on to learn biblical Hebrew and or biblical Greek. All right. If you go down further, we have another post here. In the kingdom of Dahomey, slave source for the transatlantic slave trade were taken from foreigners amongst them. During the period of 1600 to 1900 CE, we have a great source on that. In the kingdom of Congo, slave source for the transatlantic slave trade were taken from foreigners amongst them. From 1486 CE to 1900 CE, we have an excellent source for that. All right. Here's another book that we have here, The Journey from Text to Translation, The Origin and Development of the Bible. If you're interested in learning how the Bible was put together, how translations occur, what's the science behind that, the history, etc., this is an excellent resource for that, because people are asked all the time, well, the Bible was created during the period of Constantine, or the Old Testament was created during the Council of Jamnia, and all this other conspiracy theory stuff. Read a book, understand the information yourself, and you can dispel all of these conspiracy theories. All right. Also here, check this out. This is a session or conference called Exalted Spirits, the Veneration of the Dead in Egypt through the Ages, from November 10th to the 12th. I will be attending this particular conference. All right. If you want to read it, the American Research Center in Egypt, which I'm a part of, the American University in Cairo, and the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities are organizing a joint conference titled Exalted Spirits, the Veneration of the Dead in Egypt through the Ages. This 3-day conference will cover the veneration of deceased figures in Egypt from the Pharaonic period up to current times, using the diverse evidence available in terms of text, images, and lived traditions. The conference will feature academic papers as well as panel discussions focusing on current practices related to the veneration of the dead and their origins, which may be traced back to ancient Egypt, and is aimed at both academic and non-academic participants. The former will present academic papers, while the latter, which may include creatives from different fields, will participate in panel discussions. Academic papers will be published in a peer-reviewed publication after the conference. I will be one of the participants on the panels. All right. I did not get this in time. If I would have known about this at the beginning of the year, I would have written a paper and submitted a paper, but I didn't get it in time. I just found out about this about 2 weeks ago, right? That's not enough time for me to put a paper together, especially with my busy schedule. But the next major conference that I attend, I will be putting a paper together and I will be submitting it. But the reason why I like this particular conference and this subject matter, because there's people in the so-called conscious or Kemetic community that will say it was all science, it's high science. They didn't venerate the dead. They didn't worship the dead. They didn't have all these different offerings to the dead and do all these various rituals and ceremonies. Yes, they did. And if you know anything about the American Research Center in Egypt, all the world's renowned Egyptologists, whether they're white, black, or other, show up to this, submit their papers for peer review from the panel on the spot. It goes into a publication and it gets put in the hands of the readers and people who are interested in stuff. I've been part of this organization since 2015. So I've been part of this joint for 6 years, man. This is how I learned a lot of stuff about Egypt. Not just this, but there's other sources I use as well. But what I'm saying is I don't see nobody from the so-called Kemetic community, right? Met one person from the Kemetic community, and they're not even a teacher in the community, just an adherent to that doctrine that I see here or submitted papers here. I don't see them. I've invited Ra Squad, other groups to come and join this. They are nowhere to be found. Right? Why? I don't know. Maybe their schedules are busy. I said, I'll pay for you to go there and all of that. They don't show up, right? So at least what I'm doing is going here, getting the data, the information, meeting the Egyptologists and all the other people that are there, and I'm bringing that information back to our community, right? The last time I was able to do this was back in 2016, right? But I went to several other conferences virtually, like this one I'll be attending virtually as well, and I will be bringing data back to the community. This is field work. Anytime you see conferences like this, they always bring new information in that field to the surface. So this stuff then trickles down much later to the common layman. You got to be on the cutting edge. You got to be ahead of the curve. So that's why when I have discussions with these people in that community, I don't come to play. I want to see, where's your associations? What companies and organizations are you a part of? I'm part of 4 of them in the realm of ancient Egypt. 4. In the realm of biblical studies and archaeology, I'm part of 6. And other in the ancient areas, I'm part of 3. I don't play games here. I don't play games here. So what I do is I bring this information back to our community and I share stuff with the community so that it could be in the hands of the layman much earlier than waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line before you get privy to this information. All right. So also I had this throwback post here of the 3-time award winner, DivineProspect, 2017, 18, and 19. I won 3 awards within the community. All praise to the Most High. I didn't post this to boast or brag, but I posted it as a point of reference to new people who were signing on to the Patreon who are not familiar with my history, and I shared this information with them. So even on the Patreon, I share information that I typically don't share elsewhere, or may just put it on here for any novices or people who come in for the first time and they learn about my history, my journey, because this Patreon technically is about me and my research and me teaching you how to research and sharing personal quibs about myself is on here. All right. Now, also, because of the conference I'm going to, what I'm doing for the community is prepping you guys how to get involved in regards to the language. Okay. Now, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to show you how you do that. Right. Here is a concise dictionary of Middle Egyptian. All right. This is by Raymond Faulkner. All right. And it's an updated book based on Raymond Faulkner's classification system of Middle Egyptian. Right. Here is a reference from James P. Allen, who I've met myself personally, spoken to personally, had correspondence with personally. And if you go back and look at this post, you see here it's kind of blurry, but you see here is an image of me and him. All right. Because I went to American Research Center in Egypt and I met all the world's leading Egyptologists that attended the conference. And this next one, I'm going to meet more. So we talking about people who are candidates for a PhD, all the way to people who's been putting in work from 10 to 40 to 50 years in the field. I meet personally. I talk to personally. I ask questions personally. And if you're interested in seeing some insight on that, go to my YouTube channel, type American Research Center in Egypt, DivineProspect in the YouTube box. It'll pull up the video when I went there in 2016. And I had a dialogue discussion with several people that was there, right? And I showed some images from the lectures as well, because you can't record the lectures, unfortunately. So I just took pictures of the slides and the people who was talking, the speakers, etc. All right. So here he has the ancient pyramid text. So he has them in both what we call Middle Egyptian and as well as the English translation. So he has a pyramid text here. When you hear people always reference a pyramid text and the 42 negative confessions, did you know that that varied? And it depended upon which pyramid it was in. All the 42 negative confessions are not the same. Anybody that tells you that, they don't know what they're talking about. They vary from Nasut to Nasut, king to king, pharaoh to pharaoh. Every pyramid that has these texts, they vary. There's differences in them. So what we do in the Israelite field of study is called textual criticism. They have a field called papyrology in ancient Egyptian studies or Egyptology, where they look at various papyri that was written in Egypt, and some of them are copies of others. So when people tell you, talk all the stuff about the Bible, you tell them, hey, look, the pyramid text, you know that different pharaohs had different things, just like the 42 negative confessions, they vary from pharaoh to pharaoh. They vary. But anyway, I'm giving this out to you. And then I'm also giving you a grammar of the ancient pyramid text, volume 1, and it's the Temple of Unis. Okay. Now I also post the other subsequent volumes from James P. Allen as well, who's one of the leading scholars in this realm of study. Matter of fact, he also has a grammar book as well. I might post his too. I think I posted it in the past, but I want to put Faulkner's up there because Faulkner's also a great reference as well. And there's some other modern ones that people use as well, but these are like the leading scholars in this field, right? So what I'm doing is I'm giving you a dictionary of Middle Egyptian, and I'm giving you a grammar book so you can make your way through the pyramid text yourself. You don't have to rely on these so-called gurus in this Kemetic community. You can go back and fact check it yourself. That's how we get busy. That's how we get down at KHM. And on this Patreon, that is what we are providing to the community. How to spoon feed yourself. I learned a very, very interesting lesson when feeding my son, who will be 9 months soon. Actually, he'll be 9 months on Sunday. Right? 9 months on Sunday. And I also showed some of that journey here on YouTube, some of that journey on Patreon of getting him doing his Brit Milah, or his circumcision, and then his dedication. We did a dedication on the 8th day after circumcision, according to our customs as Israelites. All of that is on my YouTube channel. You can go back and check it out. We live this thing for real as best as we can. We're not perfect, never report to be perfect. However, we strive for excellence as much as possible. All right. All right, cool. And even if we trip, right? Because the objective is to keep advancing forward on this journey. And even when you trip, you'll still be moving forward. Just don't slip. If you slip, you're going to fall back. But if you trip, you're going to move forward. All right? That's important. All right? That's important. And that's scripture in Mishle and Proverbs. It's a great proverb on that. All right? All right, so let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. All right? All right, so yes, he is. He is 9 months. Matter of fact, let me see if I can show you y'all a picture of him real quick. I think the last time y'all seen him actually is in the video I did at Teruah. So go back and check out the video we did on trumpets on this channel, and you can go ahead and see. I was going to show you a picture of him, but he's actually in that video, and you can see him. He's just quiet. Shout out to Bat today. Yes, Medju Necha, divine words. Necha has to do with divinity, divine, and if you have a particular determinative of a seated deity, it's referring to that deity, right? The Necha, Necharu is plural, is referring to divine entity. Sometimes they could be a venerated ancestor or a deified ancestor. Sometimes they could be some ethereal ontological deity. Sometimes the Necha can be a king. That is the life. Because the Nesut Biti was considered a Necha as well while he's on the earth. And Medju has to do with words. When you hear the U, that typically signifies plural. Medju having to do with words. Medju Necha. All right. Shout out to Kivesa Avuda. Shalom. Shout out to You Love Yah. Shalom. Daughter of the Most High Pug. Shalom. Sister Consuelo F. Shalom. She's telling y'all, hit those thumbs all the way up. John and Dorsey says the KHM Patreon is like the Library of Alexandria. All praise to the Most High. So far, we got almost 300 books on there. I'm trying to get 1,000 by the end of next year. I'm trying to put 1,000 books on there. I mean, I got tons of digital books, man. And what I'm going to start doing on a Patreon is we're going to start doing giveaways, right, of books. So I bought some new books. Some of these I have digital copies of. Some of them I've never read before. I've got some new books, and I'm purchasing 6 more books, and I'll show it to you. So what I'm going to do on another future live stream is just go through some of the books that I have, because some of these books you have in my library here. I have a library also in New York as well that has way more books than the ones that you see here. These are the ones I was just able to bring with me. In New York, I think I got maybe about 100 more books or whatever. Then I have some other books that's just sitting over here that's not on that shelf. That's just for decoration. When you see the video, there's some books in the background. And then my digital library, I have over 1,000 books in my digital library. It's crazy. And I'm trying to make all of this available to the community. I'm trying to read and vet these books. Now, mind you, the books that I possess are books that I've read and that I want to keep. I've read books that I don't want to keep, and that's not in my library. You know what I'm saying? So the ones that I put on Patreon, I've read them, I've vetted them, and I'm sharing them with the community, and they are excellent, excellent reads, okay? So I'll go do a separate video. I'll go through some of the new books that I purchased that I'm reading through. I'm finishing them. I should be done with them in another week or so. These books that I have over here, I got 5 new books over here. I'll be finished them in about a week because I try to read several chapters every night before I go to bed, and I try to read a couple in the morning because during the day it's hectic. So I try to do it early in the morning or late at night, right, until I finish the book. And I don't just read one book all the way through. Sometimes I read 3 books and read 2 chapters and 3 books before I go to bed, right, or when I wake up, right? But I try to do my best to get through it. I try to speed read through it as well. I also put a book on the Patreon if you want to learn how to speed read. Okay? If you want to learn how to speed read, we have the book on Patreon to teach you how to speed read. We put in everything at your disposal so you don't have to be 1,000% reliant on no DivineProspect or any other teacher, guru, moray, or whoever in this community. So what we do here is different. Even though I may give you my perspective on things and so forth, I tell you how I got to that perspective, and I show you how to use the methodology, the sources, and the tools yourself so you can get to your own conclusion and go where Yah's leading you. All right? All right. So let me see. Did I miss anybody else? I think I got everybody. Let me see. I think I got everybody. Yes, I got everybody. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right. Shout out to Truth, More Truth. Shalom, my brother HaKodesh Management. Mishpaka, what's good? What's goody, King? What's going on, man? We got to chat. All right, we got to chat. And thank you for reaching out to me in regards to merchandising. I'm familiar with that, but I haven't implemented yet. But if you want to assist with that, my brother, please help with that. I would greatly appreciate that. Let me see. I think that's everybody. All right, so let's get busy. All right, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you share this video if you are on social media of any kind. And please, if you're brand new, hit the subscribe button. and hit that bell, hit all, so you don't miss any notifications coming your way when we go live, when we upload some new content. All right. Shout out to my brother Yawasop, son of light in the building, Chidam, Okwu. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Okwe, I think that's what Okwe. Shalom to you as well. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get busy, y'all. Let's get busy. All right. So Day of Atonement. So what we're going to do with Day of Atonement is we're going to touch that real quick. But let me show you something before we get started. For those of you who are unfamiliar as of yet, where is it at? Okay. All right. So this here is from our KHM Ancient Pre-Exilic Israelite Sacerdotal Menological Model. It's contained in this calendar, and all those words there are there for a reason. Ancient Pre-Exilic Israelite Sacerdotal Menological Model. Ancient means old or antiquated. Pre-Exilic means before the Israelites went into exile. Israelite having to do with the ethnicity of the people. Sacerdotal having to do with priestly, meaning priestly. But now in this case, it is also a sacerdotal and civilian, right, or civic calendar, right? And then menological has to do with the study or rendering of months, right? The reason why it was a sacerdotal menological model is because it was the priestly reckoning of time in order to ascertain the calculation of the feast days, right? That was the one that we did in 2020. The one for 2021, people asked, they want a more extended calendar. They wanted to cover all 12 months. So now we extended it from just the sacerdotal element or the priestly element to a civic element, where you can also use this as a 12-month civic calendar as well, okay? And also menological has to do with the rendering or reckoning of time via the months, right? Menos having to do with months. Ology means the speech, study, or expression of, right? So it's because initially the ancient pre-Israelite sacerdotal menological model was a reckoning of time by the priest class in Israel, ancient Israel, who reckoned time based on several factors in the celestial realm and the terrestrial realm, right? The celestial realm would be your sun, moon, and stars. Terrestrial will be your climate, your animal migrations and mating, and your crops. And they would use these things whenever the turn of season came, what we call spring, and they would use the sightings of these things in order to say, okay, this is the beginning of months for our people. It's not Rosh Hashanah, because that is the beginning of the civic year by means of the farmer's almanac that was utilized in ancient Israel. We don't keep it during that time, right? Because trumpets normally is the start of Rosh Hashanah in the Orthodox Jewish calendar, right? But Aviv, what we use, Aviv, Ziv, month 3, 4, 5, 6, Etanim, and Bull, that was the original reckoning of time of the priests in ancient Israel. Because the priests in ancient Israel did not have an inheritance of their own, which means they did not have land, they did not have houses. However, they did eat from the food stuffs that were being offered to the temple, and at night, they would go into an inn or some place where they would be seen, and somebody was responsible for taking that priest into their home to stay the night, and then they would wake up and they would go back to the temple, all right? So that's how the priests lived, okay? So they were not farmers, they were not pastoralists, they were not merchants, or whatever the case may be. They simply worked the temple, okay? Now, they continuously worked the temple. They never stopped working the temple. However, when it comes to the feast days, their only concern was to reckon time based on calculating the Moedim, or the annual gatherings amongst the people, in which some of them was factored in the feast days, right? Or the Hagim, the feast, right? Hagim. So here, this calendar we have for 2021 covers from January to February of next year of 2022. It covers that length of time. And if you're interested in getting you a copy, if you don't have a copy, hit the link in the description below. It'll tell you the KHM Ancient Pre-Exilic Israelite Calendar, and it'll have a link there. Click that link, and then once you give the donation for that link, which is $10, we'll provide you with this awesome calendar, which took a lot of effort and time to put together. And those funds that we receive is going towards the creation of the new calendar that's coming, because we have to pay people to actually do these things, right? So this is a great image by the sister Allison, and she was on the last live stream where we talked about the anime. She created this, as well as the one she did for the other months. Like if you look at the one for Bull, The 8th month, she did one for Feast of Tabernacles, dwelling booths, a makeshift booth here. And this one is connecting the elders of the community, connecting the youth to their ancestral past, right? And that's why if you look here, here's the trumpets that was being blown in ancient Israel. And here's how we celebrate it today. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So anyway, here on the calendar, we already had our Feast of Trumpets, right? Yom Teruah. And then now we on Day of Atonement. Now, Day of Atonement has already passed. It concluded during the twilight hours, or what we call the Erev, or the evening, which is a transition from day to night. It ended. However, it began the twilight of the previous day. And then the evening of that day started it, which we call Day of Atonement, and then it concluded the next day. However, Day of Atonement is not a requirement now, and you're going to see why I say that. It's not a requirement, okay? It's the reason why I'm going to break this down to you. It's very interesting. It's not a requirement, all right? We're going to find out the 3 feasts that are requirements, right? Yom Teruah is not a requirement, because the interesting thing about Yom Teruah, if you go to Numbers chapter 10, verse 10, you'll see that there was also new moon feast that people will have. The difference with Atonement, the first day of Atonement, is it's ushering the final month in which you can be outside to do certain things, because Israel, ancient Israel, towards the north, not towards the Negev desert, towards the north, had a winter rainy season. Okay, so you had to bring everything in during the day of ingathering. Remember, you see the Feast of Ingathering. That ingathering day is the 8th day, where you have to bring in all the items from the wine press, the threshing floor, etc., to preserve it over the wintry rainy season, which then ended in what we call March. So this rainy season typically began in October, all right, and then it consummated in the middle of March, all right? So here, as you can see, and I'll zoom in, in case it's kind of small. All right. So you can see here, we have various icons on the calendar, and over to the left, we have the Moedim details, if the month has Moedim, and then the legend to explain to you what's going on. So during this month, we have the late harvest of palm dates and a late harvest of olives. Okay. Again, bringing everything in from outside, put in the storehouse for the wintry rainy season. All right. Unless you live near towards the south, near the Negev desert, then you get little to no rain there. So pastoralism is still done in those lowland areas, in those arid, dry areas. Okay, but towards the north, where more horticulture is done, more agriculture is done on the hilltops, etc. That's where you do your horticulture, or even sometimes in the lowlands where you do what we call foresting foraging for wild, wheat, wild barley, wild fruits, nuts, pistachios, almonds was something that was also was grown there as well. You would collect and pull everything in to hold you over until the wintry rainy season is over, right? So now we're here at Day of Atonement, which you see here, right? Day 1, you see where it says Day 1 there, right? And then you see at the top, you see 10. So Day 1 that you see there is for the Gregorian calendar, but the number you see at the top that's highlighted is a circle, a purple circle, is the day of Atonement. It's the 10th day of Atonement, which correlates with Day 30 of September and Day 1 of October, okay? Because the Hebrew day begins at evening, okay? Now, the difference with Day of Atonement, which I'm going to show you guys when we go into it, some people think that when we go to Leviticus chapter 23, it actually teaches us how to keep the Sabbath, and that is untrue. Now, I have tons of sources. If you guys are interested in source material, I'll bring that up towards the end as well. You can look into this further yourself. But the fact that evening to evening is mentioned there, is you typically see that in ancient Near Eastern writings if there's a distinction between that particular day and other days, right? Which means the day of rest for this, it's not a feast day because you don't feast on this day, but on this, what they call the high holy day or set apart day, is from evening to evening, which includes the night and the day portion. According to ancient Pre-Exilic Israelite reckoning of time, the Sabbath day is the 7th day of the week. That's the Shabbat. But the Shabbaton, the period in which you rest, is from daybreak until the hottest time of the day. And we get that from Exodus chapter 16 or Shemot chapter 16, which lays that out. So we see a distinction between Day of Atonement and its period of rest from what we see with the regular Shabbat and the other. You don't see no other feast day outlined for you evening to evening. It's not there, because it's already known and accepted that the period of time which you rest is during business hours. Their business hours was from sunrise to sunset, because literally in those times, if you don't work, you don't eat. This is why they had to do double the work on the 6th day so that they can rest on the Sabbath day, and more particularly the Shabbaton, because on the Sabbath day begins in the evening. You can confine your work and continue to work in the home in preparation for when the daylight comes or when the morning comes, in which you rest from those labors. All right. So we're going to get into Day of Atonement a little bit, and towards the end, I can pull some more source material out so you can go back and read more information yourself on the reckoning of time in ancient Near East, reckoning time in regards to ancient Israel, and something that touches on the feast days in regards to ancient Israel. All right, so we are extremely thorough and meticulous on this site to provide you with the methodology, the sources, and the tools to work out this information for yourselves. All right. And again, if you're interested in getting your copy of this calendar before we stop offering it, please click the link in the description below. All right. All right, so let's get started. All right, let's get started. All right. Yo, Jordan is hilarious. Yo, Jordan, every time you do that, you get the trolls mad. Yo, so y'all, what's up? So if those of you who have Patreon are interested in learning the reckoning of time in ancient Israel, the reckoning of time in the ancient Near East, the calendrical systems of the ancient Near East, all of those books are on Patreon. Just go into the search box when you log into Patreon and you click on DivineProspect and go to our page. Go to the search box, just type calend, C-A-L-E-N-D. And I'll put that in the, just type this word, type calend, okay? Type that in and you'll see 4 or 5 books come up with hundreds of pages in each book that goes through everything you need to know about the reckoning of time and the calculation of time for feast days, because you know feast days was not exclusive to Israel. In Babylon, they had the Akitu festival, which is a very important processional festival. All right. And it also has to do with the ingathering of the harvest from their barley period. All right. And then ancient Egypt also had their feast days as well, right? Towards the north, and what we call modern day Syria, ancient Aram, they had their feast days there as well. And South Mesopotamia, they had their feast days as well. If you go further towards the north in Turkey, which what we call would be Hattusa or the Mitanni Empire, or where the Hittites are at, they had feasts there as well. If you look at the Canaanite groups, because the Canaanites were not a homogeneous group, which means they were not all the same people. They were different ethnic groups that consisted of the Canaanites. They also have their reckoning of time as well. If we go into the Arabian Peninsula, when we go towards the east of the Jordan River and towards the south, they also had their forms of reckoning of time, their particular feast days as well. When you go into our Patreon and look at those books that we have, those 4 or 5 books that we have, all of them talk about these things. All right. They go into depth about these things so you can understand the context, especially when we speak here. All right. All right. Yeah, I want them. They can come back on, but they don't stand a chance here because of the way that they do their research. Shout out to Linda Ricks in the building. I see you. Shalom, my brother Jetson Silentio. Shalom. I see you. Sean McGee in the building. Shalom. I see you. Kenneth Yashrael. Shalom. Shalom. Radiant One. I see you, sis. Shalom. My brother Get Wise, aka James. Shalom King. What's going on? J Rod. I see you. Shalom. All right. Facts. And you do it well. And when you come on the show, you always give great insight, my brother. And I do praise you for that. You do an excellent job with that. Shout out to the Black Av and the building. What's going on? So again, we don't play games here. We're not here to spoon feed you. So many people get mad at me and say, Devon, just tell me what this is. Tell me what that is. I said, no. The only way that you can truly absorb the information is through self-discovery. We provide you with the methodology, the tools, and the sources so you can go find the answer for yourself. I'll give you tons of breadcrumbs to interest you so you can get a taste or a sample of what's on that mountaintop. But I'm not going to climb the mountaintop with you. I'm going to give you the gear, teach you how to use it, and show you how to transverse those rocky cliffs to get to the top so you can see the mountaintop for yourself. Some people don't like that type of study because it requires them or obligates them to work, to put effort in. Just like with KHM as a ministry, we put work and effort in the community. People like to just sit here on YouTube and just watch YouTube and say, okay, I got my fix and that's it. No, that's not it. There's a whole nother realm you got to get engaged in when it comes to this work, when it comes to this awakening. And people are taking using the cheat codes to get this stuff. Oh, I'm not even going to stay from, I'm going to go to this moray. And I'm going to watch his video, and you're treating it like church. You might as well go back to Sunday church. We're not a church here. This is a virtual ministry organization that if you watch these videos, it would oblige you to do the work for yourself. It would oblige you to get involved in your community. And if you don't want to do these things, tune off. Turn it off. That's it. We're not going to spoon feed you here. I'll give you some information. I even do lectures and show you what my position is, but we always give sources, our methods, tools, etc. All right? So if that's not for you and you want to be lazy in this walk, this is not for you. Okay? Go to a Sunday moray or Sabbath moray and sit at his feet and let him just throw jewels at you, telling you all these angels that's revealing knowledge to him and all these secret esoteric things that he found somewhere in a dream or whatever. Hey, if that's what you want to do, you want to work with that, that's totally up to you. We don't play those games here. That's it. We don't play those games. Shout out to Ernest Higgs in the building. Shalom, Sister Pan. I see you. Shalom. All right, let's get busy. All right. Again, if you're enjoying the content, hit the thumbs up. Share the video on all social media platforms. And if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. Click on and go back and check out our archives. Once this video is over, we have tons of content that we know you will love and enjoy. And if you want to get down with that 365, 24/7 after party, hit up the Patreon as you see down below. And let's get busy. All right. Drop this in here for you. All right. All right. So this is how we get down. All right. Let's pull up our first scripture. All right. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. All right. And again, what I'm closing out my work contract that I currently have because I've been working 9 hours every day, sometimes a little bit more every day, except for the Shabbat and Sunday. So I've had a work contract. So that's taken me away from a lot of the content I wanted to create. But that contract ends next Friday. And then, also, let me put it out there. We will be in New York October 15th. The flyer will be up next week. It will be up by next week. We will be in New York doing a KHM chapter launch starting Friday, October 15th. So if you're in the New York area, if you're in a tri-state area, you must converge on October 16th. We'll be in Manhattan, okay? What a nice location we have. You're going to love it. We have a kitchenette in there, bathrooms with full tubs and all of that in there, right? I think New York is doing it big, bigger than the other chapter launches we did. And when we was in LA, we had a nice spot in LA. I really like that spot in LA, right? But this is topping that, right? New York chapter KHM. So if you're in New York or the tri-state area, you must converge in Manhattan. We're going to give you the location when the flyer comes out, right? On October 16th. All right? October 16th. All right? This is in downtown Manhattan. All right? Not lower Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, in between 42nd and 34th Street and 8th Avenue. We got a nice spot over there that we know you're going to enjoy. We will be in the building. KHM. All right. All right. I know New York has been waiting for this for a whole year. We were supposed to be in New York a year from now. We were supposed to be in New York. Took a whole year to get to New York because this COVID thing, man. And Houston, we ain't forget about you. You next, Houston. Right? Before we go international, we got to hit Houston up next. Houston, you next. All right. But New York, your time is October 16th. All right. So all the people from New York in the building, hit 1. All my New Yorkers, hit 1. Hit 1, New York. We will be in the building. You see this? Virtual and physical. We in these streets. We in your community. Doing Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 1 to 7. More particularly verse 7. Seek the peace of the city and intervene on its behalf to Yah. For in its peace you shall have peace. Israelites, the reason why you don't have peace in your city, because y'all just sitting here on YouTube watching these more raids. Getting your fix and then going back to your regular life. That's not what we're doing over here. That's not how we getting down. We're going to oblige you, prick you, move you to get involved, motivate, inspire you to get involved. The only reason why we give you this information is so you can translate it into a paradigm to solve societal ills in your immediate community. Because if you don't have peace or shalom in your towns, because you're not doing nothing. You're sitting here just watching YouTube all day or even Netflix. Or after you get off work, you work with your kids, but on the Shabbat and everything else. Listen, if you're going to fast and do things towards the Most High, let's go to scripture real quick. I'm sorry. Let's go to scripture. Let's go. Y'all thinking it's day of atonement. I'm just gonna fast. Let me, because afflict your souls, it's assumed it means fast. There's a word for fasting in the scriptures, but afflicting your soul, people say, I'm a fast. You know what they do? They stay home and they don't eat food or drink water. Well, sometimes they drink water. I'm going to show you real fast in according to the scripture. Some of y'all don't even know how to put this work in. I don't know what y'all doing on your Day of Atonement, but I'm going to show you what you need to be doing. All right? Let me show y'all. Like I said, we're not playing games here. Let's pull up scripture. True fasting. Cry aloud. Do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their transgression, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the judgment of the Most High. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. That's what they say. Why have we fasted and you see it not? Why have we humbled ourselves and you take no knowledge of it? Oh, yeah, I'm going to fast on this day. I'm not going to eat. I'm going to afflict my soul, yeah, and I'm going to stay shut up in the house. Behold, in the day of your fast, you seek your own pleasure and oppress all your workers. So those of you who are entrepreneurs and business people out here, this is to you as well. You're not exempt. Behold, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to hit with a wicked fist. Fasting like yours this day will not make your voice to be heard or high. You're saying you think because you're fasting that God's going to see it. Nah, he's not seeing that. You just fasting. You think he's going to see it? Nah, you're missing something. All right? Is such the fast that I choose, a day for a person to humble himself? Is it to bow down his head like a reed and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him, which is a custom, an ancient Near Eastern custom, right? For weeping, for repentance, for humbling. Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Most High? Is this not the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? No. That's not that Christian song that goes, break every chain, break every chain. Yo, you singing that is not breaking no chains. I'm just laying it down for you and keeping it real. You singing that song or singing a song ain't breaking no chains. Oh, I'm over here transforming the atmosphere. But how you doing it? How are you transforming the atmosphere? Yo, this is all right. Let's keep going. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house when you see them naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up speedily. Your righteousness shall go before you, and the glory of the Most High shall be your rear guard. You simply just fasting and being pious behind closed doors and around those you're familiar with is nothing. Yeshua said, this is what Yeshua said about forgiving and doing things for those you know. He said, what good is that? Even the publicans do that. But you got to do it for strangers, those who can't pay you back. So you wondering why you fasting and doing this pious stuff and it's not working. I'm singing these songs though, yeah. That's not, nah, you got to get busy. You got to get busy. Go in your community and get busy. So if you keep in Day of Atonement and you fasting, I'm going to ask you, how many people have you fed today? How many bills are poor that you brought into your house? How many people who are naked, you covered him? Remember, these are the things that Yeshua also repeated when he was talking to his disciples. The Most High says, when you do this, then shall your light break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up. Y'all ain't getting healed because y'all ain't putting that work. You think enough is just fasting. That's supposed to do something for the Most High to move. No, it's not. Fasting empties yourself of your own pleasures and your own desires, right? Of gluttony towards food and of other things that you're using to consume your wants. It is emptying you of that and forcing you to be relying upon Yah. So when his spirit empties you, fills you after you've been empty, it works through you, which means when you see those in need, you get to work. That's the mitzvah. That's the law. Ha-mitzvah, the law. Okay. All right. Oh, you still playing that song, Break Every Chain? All right, though. Let's see what happens when that song goes off. Okay. Then you shall call, and the Most High will answer. You shall cry. He will say, here I am. Because when you do it to the least, like Yeshua says, and the Most High tells us to help the poor, the widow, the oppressed, and the stranger. Y'all are out there oppressing strangers. Y'all out there oppressing the widows, the poor, the fatherless. Our program, the services, is to help families, whether they're in a home, middle class, or whether they pour out in the streets. We don't give them just to give. We provide an opportunity so they can give to themselves. This is deeper than rap. This is deeper than what y'all think. So if you think I'm going to sit here and make you feel cozy, cool, calm, and collective in your seat, nah, we lighting fire under you, under your chair. You understand? You need to get busy. You understand? All right. All right. Okay. All right. Let's get busy. All right. That was a little side. If you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in darkness and your gloom be as noonday. This is the word. And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. And your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt, and you shall raise up the foundation of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets to dwell in, and fixing the community that you're in. When you fast, you empty yourself of your desires, so that the Most High can pour his spirit into you and work through you out to those in need. Are you doing this? You wonder why you can't hear Yah when you cry out to him. He's not saying, here I am. Are you doing this? You wondering why your light is not shining in darkness. Are you doing this? Okay. All right. This has to do with the Sabbath, but we're gonna fall back on it. I just want to say, because since this is the season for fasting for some of y'all, I want to give you the scripture to learn what real fasting. If you really gonna keep this, like keep it 100, that's what we say in New York. Keep it 100, keep it a buck. That means you're gonna keep it real. That means you're gonna stay true to it. Sometimes I gotta simplify it into proper English. Stay true to this cause that you're engaging in. You're gonna be real pious. This is how you do what we call Yom Kippur, or Day of Atonement. Facts. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. I'm not going to make y'all feel comfortable over here. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Sorry, it's not going to happen. All right, let's keep going. All right. Let's get scripture now. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3. Share my screen. Yeah, it starts back in Genesis chapter 3. All right, so I'm not going to get into this part, but we're going to scroll down. A lot of us know the story about Adam and Eve in the garden and the Nakash, the serpent, loosely translated serpent, which should really be a sarah, which is a, people call it an angel. It's not an angel. It is an ontological being that dwells where the Most High is. But some of them are here also on the earth, right? And some of them act as what we called watchers. Some of them act as watchers, or whatever the case may be, right? It's neither here nor there. But then you go into what we call the curses. Remember, Adam and Eve was not cursed. Only the Nakash was cursed. Okay? Adam and Eve was not cursed. That's important. It can't be cursed because the Most High blessed them. All right? So when we scroll down, what I want to get to is this verse right here. All right? Verse 21. And the Lord God, or Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, Elohim, made for Adam and his wife, his Isha, garments of skins and clothed them. This is important. All right? This is where your atonement starts. Because when Adam and Eve was found out by the Most High, the means of covering themselves was insufficient. Verse 8, I'll jump up. And they heard the sound of the Most High Power walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High among the trees of the garden. But the Most High called to man and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he says, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit of the tree, and I ate. Which means instead of the man owning up to his flaw, his issue, his mistake, he blames somebody else. Men, you got to stop doing this. The reason why things are crumbling around us is because we're not taking ownership for the destruction that's going on in our communities, right? It's a process. It takes some time to get to that point. But when you own up to things, that is when restoration comes. But if you go up a little further, check it out. Then the eyes of both then the eyes of both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. That's important, right? So when they disobeyed, they realized they disobeyed. So they tried to cover themselves and hide. The reason why they took the fig leaves because they probably went to a place where fig trees were or fig leaves were at to hide themselves amongst the figs, because they saw themselves as being naked, right? However, when we go here, let me scroll down, took up this word where they say coverings, right? The word hagorot. The root word is hagor, right? Which we have hit, patach, or here's a shortened patach, gimel, wav with the cholam and resh, right? A belt or girdle, okay? Loin covering, as article of women's dress in Isaiah 3:24, a belt of a warrior. Why? Because men will have these loincloths, and what they would do before they battled, the loincloths would go down to their feet. They would tie them up so they can gird themselves before they go to war. Because if you have this loincloth or any kind of cloth that you use for your everyday dress, and you try to fight a war in it, you're going to trip up, you're going to fall, you're not going to be effective. So they would tie them up or gird themselves up with something that looked like a belt. But when you unravel it, it'll go down to a skirt, right? And when we say skirt, we're not talking about the skirt that you think about today. But men at those times had tunics and garments that went all the way down to their feet, okay? So in this case, they grabbed something to cover themselves, loincloths. Keep that in mind. That's important, right? But when we jump down, all the way back down to verse 21, it says, and the Most High Power made for Adam and his wife garments of skins and clothed them, because their method of clothing themselves was insufficient. It was unable to remove the stain of disobedience from their lives. So Yah made this sacrifice. Now let's go into the language of this, right? Taught on this in the past before, but I'm going to show you the tools that you can use for those who may not be familiar with the language, right? So you go here to BibleHub.com. You go to the scripture that we went to, and then you click on interlinear. This is your interlinear, right? Interlinear is going to give you several things. The first thing up here is going to be your Strong's keys. So you can go back to your Strong's concordance and look it up. Strong's is has a dated lexicon in it. It also has an English concordance. It's very old. However, it's still sufficient for the basics. But if you want to get into strong type of lexicons, you got to get the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, or even the enhanced Brown Driver Briggs, which you can get for free online because it's in the public domain. And then there's some other ones, like the ones that I have for Logos and the one I got from Klein, his classical dictionary, etc. Right? But this is sufficient enough. Underneath it is a transliteration, which means that what they're trying to do is line up consonant and vowel in the original language to the translated language, so you can pronounce what's there. Why kulu? Why kulu? Underneath that, you have the Hebrew wav, patach, yod, chewa, kaf. You have your shuruk, shuruk, your kibbutz. You have your lamed with the dagesh and the hirik, and you have your wav and your dagesh, which is your shuruk, which gives you your u sound, which also gives you your third person masculine plural. Here at the bottom, you're gonna see the parsing of the grammar. So this is a conjunctive wav. Why? We have the wav patach yod. This is our conjunctive wav. We have a pu'al stem. This is why you have your sound underneath the kaf, your kul, and you have your consecutive imperfect. Why? Because you have this right here, prefix and the pull stem, which means it's a verb stem, your pu'al stem, and then your third person masculine plural, which is represented by your shuruk, that is suffix, which gives you third person masculine plural. All right. So this is an example of what this is that you're looking at. It's a helps, or it's a tool to help you break down the actual word. Now let's go to Genesis. I don't know why I'm on Genesis. Why did it take me to Genesis 2? I don't know. But here, Genesis 3:21, we're going to go through it. We're going to hit our interlin. And here it gives us the Hebrew, right? Right here, right? Why, or we say way, it says way, because you have your wav, patach, yod, you have your dagesh, patach. Why, or way ya'as, Yahweh, Elohim, le Adam, ule ishto, or istau. This is your ow here, his wife. Your katenot, which is your tunics, or which is your skin, and way yalabisem. Way yalabisem. Now here's the key thing: tunics, skin, clothes. Important. Okay, I'm not going to get into the verbal stem, hethel stem here, which is the past, the causative. We're not going to get into that because he caused them to be clothes, but we're going to read tunics of skin and clothing, right? So tunics. You click here on your Strong's key, will bring you into the word. It'll give you the root word or the lexical value of the word, which is the actual form or the morpheme that you're going to find in the lexicon when you look it up, right? In this case, it's keththoneth. Keththoneth, right? Keththoneth. Ke. This is your kaf, dagesh, the hard K sound. You have your shewa, ke. Then you have your th sound, your th sound, because there's no dagesh in the middle of this tav. This is tho, your cholam up here, ketho, your nun, and your short, your lengthy segol, your elongated sound, kethoneth, right? Kethoneth, right? This is a tunic. Key thing I want you to hone in on your right side, you have what's called the Englishman's Concordance. You can also get a treasury of scriptural knowledge resource, which means it shows you what in the Israelite community they call precepts or commands. Precept just means a command, but it shows you cross references of other scriptures that align with this particular scripture, that work hand in hand, or there's an affinity between scriptures, right? What I want you to key in is on Genesis chapter 37. This is the word tunic, right? Genesis chapter 37, which is the next usage of this word. We're going to read the context. So we're going to go to parallel so we can read the context. Right here, this is the account of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, he was tending the flock with his brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than his other sons because Joseph had been born to him in his old age, so he made him a robe of many colors. They translate that word for robe, something that is an outer garment that covers you from head to toe. Right? We know this is the robe of many colors, right? So we get an idea of its usage elsewhere to start to expand the semantic range or the various ways the meaning can be derived of this particular word. Okay, follow me. Okay, when you get into our classes, I'll go through this much slower, piece by piece, so you can pick it up faster. Okay, so we get an idea of what the tunic is. It's an outer covering. It's a robe. It's something to cover you, right? And then we have the word here, or, which means skin, which is interesting because or sounds similar to the other word or in Hebrew, which means light, but they're not the same. Okay, so check it. This literally means skin, right? We see in Genesis 3:21, right? It's of an unknown derivation, right? Meaning they're not sure where it's derived from, but it typically means hides, leather, or skin. Now we're going to look at the next usage, which is Genesis 27:16. All right, which you should be familiar with this particular story, right? Matter of fact, let me show you the context of this story, right? You should be familiar. It's Isaac blesses Jacob. We know what happens in that story, but let's focus on what's going on right here, right? Our interlinear, right? It says, and the skins, we'et orot, right? This is we'et orot. So here we have the plural, right? which is the plural of this oroth, right? Interesting, plural is limited as a masculine plural construct because it relies on this word right here, geddaye. Geddaye, this has to do with kids. And he says ha'izim. We're going to look into all of this in a second, right? But it says we'et orot, right? Orot, which has to do with the skins. And the skins, because et is your direct object marker. Your conjunctive wav is here. The wav with the shewa underneath, which means it's pointing to an object. And the skins of the kids of the goats, she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Who's doing this? Who's doing this? Y'all tell me who's doing this. I just showed you the context. Look at the context. Isaac blesses Jacob, right? Rebecca is doing this for Jacob. So we know when we look at the term or for skin and oroth, which means skins plural, we know that is referring to something that's being taken from some kind of animal. In this case, it's a goat, which is the next usage of it within the same chapter, the same book, which is Bereshit or Genesis. We're not jumping to another book of the Bible to define it. We're staying within the same book to see the consistency that the author or authors that was utilizing various words to tell the narrative. We see the consistency. It comes from the skin of a goat. In other cases, it can also come from the skin of a lamb. Now, all of this has to do with atonement, and we're going to see that in 1 second, right? So we know that this skin comes from an animal that has been sacrificed or has been slaughtered or killed or had died on its own, where its skin is being removed and it's used as clothing. There's a whole process that goes through that, right? Its skin is being used as clothing. So Yah provided these coats of skin. He provided these coats of skin, right? Or these tunics, these robes of skin, and he clothed them, right? Here's our word, labash, labash, right? Lamed, kamet, beit, patak, shin, labash, right? To put on, wear, clothe, or be clothed. It's a verb. This is why we see it in Hefel stem, the causative stem, right? So when you go down here and you try to look up, okay, let me find out what's the best definition from here. We see that it's in what stem? It's in the Hefel stem, which means you cannot use the cow stem with a simple active action or mood to find the definition, because you won't find Genesis 3:21 here. You have to go down further, go down further, go down further, go down further to the Hefel stem, the causative stem, right? And then you'll see references to Genesis 3:21. This is its usage in the Hefel stem, okay? So I'm just showing you how to use this tool. Again, when we go to our class, we have a whole separate class going over tools. We go over methodology, we go over tools, and we go over sources, okay? So anyway, so this is the proper usage of it. You have to see what's the verbal stem if it's a verb in order to derive the understanding, okay? All right, so they were caused. So he took tunics of skin and caused them to be clothed with the tunics of skin. He caused it to happen, right? And the imperfect, which means it's continuous, right? Nevertheless, let's keep going, right? So once we see this here, this is the beginning of our atonement or our covering. Kippur literally means to cover, right? It's like kufi, which is similar to kippah, which means to cover, something that's a covering for your head. This is a covering for their disobedience. And there's a reason why they were covered. Because when they ventured out of the garden area, it's similar to what we get from Cain being scared to be outcast, that somebody's going to kill me. There are adversarial forces outside of the Gan or the garden. Adversarial forces. Adversarial entities, hominids, people groups, animals, right? And the most precious part of Adam and Eve, remember, they sewn fig leaves for loincloths, is the commandment that Yah has placed on the man and the woman. Let's find out what that is. Let's find out what that is. Genesis 1:28. And the Most High blessed them, and the Most High said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. This was not only a command to use your genitalia to come together to produce offspring, right? But it was also a directive to engage in pastoralism and agriculture. Oh, man. Through that process, you are learning how to domesticate things that are under your domain of control, rule, and reign. This is something deep. This is something deep, right? This is deep, right? But nonetheless, they created loincloths because of that element of their body had a commandment attached to it. Hence why they have these innate natural desires to come together and procreate. Okay. Hopefully y'all following me. Hit 1 if you're following me so far. Hit 1 if you're following me so far. All right. Let me know. Hit 1 if you're following. Before I continue, I just want to make sure that people are following. Just hit 1. Shout out to Kemetic Hebrew in the building, House of Maccabi. I see you, my brother Seth Upright. Shalom. Stacks 2296. Shalom. Linda Rick. Shalom. Eric Tinsley. Shalom. I see you. Andrea Gilbert. Shalom. Zen Humara. Shalom. I think I got everybody. Game AMPME. Shalom. Tiffany Smith. Shalom. Let me see. Shannon Bodie, shalom. Okay, y'all got it. You got it. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. ABC 1908, cool story, bro. Shalom. All right, so let's keep going. All right. So this is where what we call atonement, where it starts, but it doesn't end there. Right now, I'm going to show you some stuff. The purpose of the clothing made out of skins is symbolic. Check it out. One of the reasons why clothing was given to Adam and Eve. This is deep. This goes into mixing fabrics and all that stuff, but I'm gonna leave that for another time. Clothing is a reminder that the Most High instituted that method of taking care of yourself to remind you of the atonement he did with your forefather Adam and Eve. I'm gonna say it again. Clothing, your garments, is a reminder of the disobedience of your ancestors and their failure to cover up that disobedience by placing blame elsewhere. The man blamed the woman blamed the serpent. Serpent looked around and said, dang, I ain't got nobody else to blame, so I'm just gonna have to eat this. But the clothing that we have, that ethnic marker of human beings, that we clothe ourselves, one of the explanations of that is the provenance or the origin of the narrative that we find in the Ghana garden. Clothing is a reminder of the failure of your ancestors in covering themselves, their shame from disobedience, and that Yah stepped in and said, I'm going to give you this to cover you, because without this, you will be bare in an environment that is hostile towards you. When the man disobeyed, the earth became hostile towards him, because before the earth was yielding, it was given to him. Now it's going to be hostile. It's going to resist him with thorns and thistles. A whole transformation happened, because outside of that garden is the real world. That's what you tell parents, tell their kids. My laws, my rules, protocol in my house is to protect you and train you for the real world. Because when you get out, there's a jungle out there. Okay. Stacks 2296. I mentioned earlier that we're doing a chapter launch on October 16th. So I will be in New York in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, we will be touching down in New York, Yah willing. All right. Flyer will be out next week. All right. All right. So that was a little tidbit. Just wanted to drop that there in your spirit. So let's keep moving. Okay. So this is where the covering, this is why the word atonement in Hebrew, we're going to get into it, means covering. It is a reminder to this here, not in Genesis 1, but Genesis 3 is a reminder of Genesis chapter 3. All right. Now, I'm going to go a little further. Verse 23, therefore the Most High Power sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he placed a cherubim, or the cherubim, and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Now, this is the masculine plural in the Hebrew. We go into it, and we're going to look it up ourselves to determine if what we're looking at is plural or singular, right? Here it is. And it says, Eden et ha-kerubim, we et lahat ha-kereb, hamit ha-peket. Now look, you see this word here? Ha-hereb has to do with the sword. Here's the root for sword. This is the definite article meaning the sword. So it was lahat ha-hereb, the sword with flame. But in this case, the sword of flame. The sword of flame. This is the masculine singular construct, which is a noun that relies on a noun in the genitive that relies on the key noun here, which is the word sword, right? So the sword of flame. But it says cherubim, plural. So it wasn't just one cherub that was just there holding a sword of flaming fire. And again, there's a whole study on this flaming fire. I'm going to probably touch on another time. It's deep. It's deep. It's deep. Lismor, to guard et derek, the way, ish, or we say it's ha-chayim, the life, plural, right? The tree of lives. It's ha-chayim, the tree of lives. But this hamit ha-peket, woo, this whirling, lahat ha-chareb, hamit ha-peket, this sword whirl is flame of fire that's whirling, that's used to guard. What is this whirling action that is used to guard with this flame of fire? I'm telling you, I did a whole research study on it. It will blow your mind if you look at it against this ancient Near Eastern custom. But I'm a hold off on that. But it was multiple entities with flames of fire that was guarding the Gan, or the Garden of Eden, or Eden. So check it out. The reason why this is important, I'm going to show you something real quick. Check this out. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 6, right? Because that is our first introduction to this cherubim. First introduction, right? But the cherubim is interesting because remember I told y'all we did the study on what the word demons mean in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 17. That word demons is not the demons that we think about in English, or the daimonion, which is the word for demon in the Greek. It comes from something totally different. And if you understand, matter of fact, let's go to it real quick. I'm going to go to it and come back here. It's a little tidbit. We're working our way because, because when you see those cherubim and what their purpose is, it's very interesting. But check it. Let's go to Devarim, or Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let's go down to verse 17. Right? They sacrificed to demons that were no gods, to gods they had never known, to new gods that they had come recently, whom your fathers never dreaded. Now let's see that word for demons there. Okay? La Sedim. The Shedim, they translate as demons. Poor translation. They should just transliterate it. Because this right here is an Assyrian loan word. It goes back to the Lamasu in the Syrian culture. Okay? And again, I have the Assyrian lexicon. This is deep. This goes deeper. Woo! The Shedim are, check it out, they are guardian spirits. Guardian spirits, such as the bull colossus Lamasu, which are two giant entities, hybrid human and animal hybrid entities that are at the forefront of the entrance of a palace or a temple in ancient Assyria. They are protective deities. Well, guess what? And that's in regards to Assyria. Well, the Israelites had their own protective entities, and they were the cherubim. As you can see, the Most High set up cherubim, plural, masculine plural, to guard the east portion of the garden, which is the only way you can enter the garden. And the cherubim that was there is similar to the cherubim that guarded the temple. Hold on. Let's bring it out. Let's bring it out. But just so you can see that I'm not making this up, let's go down to the Brown Driver Briggs, and it says apparently demon, a loan word from the Assyrian Shedu, a protecting spirit, especially of the bull colossus. You go back to the Assyrian lexicon, which you can get from the Oriental Institute of Chicago. You can download it for free from their website. Go into that lexicon, go here and look up the word shin or the S, and then go, because you got to look it up in Assyrian, right? And then go and look for all the meanings of this shedu. The shedu, which is plural, the shedu, can also refer to your spirit, your guardian spirit within an existential ontological entity that guards you on the outside. Something that can also receive sacrifices, because sometimes you would have to make a sacrifice to these entities, and they had to receive it before you could enter into the temple. It's deep. Check it. It's deep. But the Israelites, on the flip side, they had their own that was protecting their temple. And that is here. We're going to read it. All right, let's go down. This is 1 Kings chapter 6. I don't know why I'm saying Deuteronomy. They just mess everything up. 1 Kings chapter 6, we're going to go down verse 23. And the inner sanctuary, he made what? 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. 5 cubits was the length of one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the length of the other wing of the cherub. It was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure and the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that of the other cherub. He put the cherubim in the innermost part of the house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out so that one wing of one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. Their other wings touched each other in the middle of the house. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold. That's important. Gold was believed to be the essence of the gods, their illumination trapped in the earth. It was a source of sustenance for the gods. It was part of their life force that was left back on the earth. And you get this when you look at the ancient Near East. It's deep. We're not going to get into gold. This is another conversation, right? But he overlaid them with gold because they are representative of their splendor. Where? In the heavenly realm. Let's get Isaiah chapter 6. Wait. Before I do this, keep reading. Check it out. It says in verse 29, and around all the walls of the house, he carved engraved figures of cherubim. Y'all thinking these things are just over the mercy seat or the Ark of the Covenant. No. He carved it everywhere on the walls. Why? Because when other cultures see this, they know, whoa, this is being protected by the cherubim. Just like when you go to Assyria and you see these shedim, you see these bull colossus entities, whoa, they're very intimidating. Matter of fact, let me show you what this looks like. Hold on. Show you this looks like. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. Somebody said the screen is frozen. The screen is frozen. Oh, you know what? I know what happened. I'm sorry. You know, I have to change the scriptures. When I changed the scriptures, it wasn't. Okay, I got it. Thank you for saying that in the chat. I know what happened. The screen wasn't frozen. It's just that I was clicking on other tabs and it wasn't displaying it for you. So my apologies for that. All right. If you can hear me and see me clearly, hit 1. If you can hear and see me clearly, hit 1. If you can hear and see me clearly, hit 1. That means you didn't see the other scriptures I was saying because it was stuck on that one tab and I was going to other tabs. So I'll stay within one tab then to make it easier so I don't have to click out and go back in. All right, so my apologies for that. So y'all can hear me clearly? Y'all can see me clearly? You can hear and see me clearly? Yes? Okay. So yeah, my apologies for that. So it wasn't frozen. It was just I was clicking on other tabs and it wasn't displaying the other tabs. All right. But I'll go into it after I show you this image here. All right. I'm glad I saw that. All right. Hold on one second. All right. Check it out. All right. This is what it looked like. This right here is what you would see. Now, this is a recreation of these things. These things would have been much taller, maybe 10, 12, 15 feet tall. They would create these entities. These are the Shedim or the Lamasu that guarded the palaces, that guarded the temples, right? And what happens is they will stand in opposition to you to intimidate you. You would sometimes have to bow down to these things or give an offering to these things, right? And then if it's accepted by these entities, you're able to go past them, because right now it looks like they're standing in front of you. But when you walk past them, look at that. You see the legs change? Once you walk past, now it looks like the entity is walking past you. You see this? It looks like it's walking. When you're looking at it head on, it's standing in front of you to oppose you. But once you're allowed to go past them, it looks like it's walking past you, which means they are trusting you to come into that holy place, to that sacred space. They are walking past you as guardians now, right? Walking past you, allowing you entrance or entry. Whereas when you first encounter them, they are standing right there to oppose you. It's deep. So now when we go into the scriptures and we see that he has carved, let me go grab the scripture that looked like it was frozen. When he carved this, hold on, let me grab it. This was supposed to have the same effect on outsiders. Israel was starting to give sacrifices to the Shedim. This is what the scripture said in Deuteronomy 32. But Israel had their own cherubim that was carved here in the temple as a means of showcasing divine protection. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 6. And again, I'll stay within one tab. My apologies for that earlier. Isaiah 6, right? In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim, right? Each had 6 wings. With 2, he covered his face. With 2, he covered his feet. With 2, he flew. And one called out to the other, Holy, holy, holy is the Most High of powers. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundation of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And then, check it out. And then I said, woe is me, for I am lost. I'm a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. And one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth and said, behold, this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away. So what we do is we have these seraphim, which we said this so-called serpent in the garden is a seraph. I talked about that previously, right? But in the throne room of the Most High is the seraphim, okay? But we also have the cherubim. Let's take a look at this, right? All right, let's go to Exodus chapter 25 and verse 40. Let's stay here. Right? This is what? The Ark of the Covenant, right? The Ark of the Covenant, right? It tells you how to make the Ark, etc. Look at this. And it says what? And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the Ark, and in the Ark you shall put the testimony that I give you. There I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim that are on the Ark of Testimony, I will speak with you about all that I will give you in commandment for the people of Israel, right? It's the cherubim that's on the mercy seat between. Both of them are flanking the mercy seat, right? The cherubim. But let's go down to verse 40. And it says this, and see that you make them after the pattern for them, which is being shown to you in a mountain. It was believed in what's called mountaintop theology that the deities or the gods dwelt on the mountains. Why? Because certain mountains were so high they pierced through the lower layer of the clouds. So they believed that the gods lived on the top of the mountain. And if you made it to the top of the mountain, you was able to converse with the gods. Let me give you an example of that from something from pop culture. Those of you who watched the movie 300, right? You know the protagonist himself, the Spartan, before he can go to war, the king had to climb up the mountain and go converse with the oracles. Why was the oracles on a high mountaintop? Because that was the closest you can get to the gods. Man-made artificial, what we call plateaus, called ziggurats, which they place their temples, because any high point would get you to the realm of the gods. And if you go and climb a mountain that pierced the clouds, now you put your oracles there that can better divine, get information from the gods and convey it to the peoples. That's an example of that, right? That's when Moses went up the mountain and came down, his countenance changed. What am I saying? Technically, it seems as though he went into a portal or something and he was able to see these things. That's what the Most High says, see that you make them after the pattern for them, which is being shown. That means something was shown to you, and the Most High is describing that which is shown. Now I want you to make in the earth a pattern of what you see here. So we see in Isaiah chapter 6, there was a seraphim that was there, but also the mercy seat, the Ark of the Covenant, is supposed to be representative of the Most High's throne, and it has the cherubim. These are the guardians that you must get past before you can even enter into the realm where Yah is at, where then you will encounter the seraphim. The cherubim is the guardians for Israel. These are guardian entities for Israel. Yo, so look. So when we go to Psalm 91, man, I'm sorry. I know so we talking about atonement. I'm going to get there. Let's go to Psalm 91. Check it out. Let me show you Psalm 91. Right? Check it out. Verse 11. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. You know that term, guardian angel, right? Here's your word here, malakah. His angels, here's your suffix that gives you your third person masculine singular, your root word, your mem, lamed, kaf. You have your aleph, kamat underneath here, key for malakah, yesoeh. So he would give his messengers charge over you to keep you in your derek, your way. And this here is derakika. Your ka is your, derek ke, your ways. Right? Now these, what we call these angels, bad translation. Angelos, that comes from angelos, that comes from Greek, right? But it's from the root word malak, right here. And this is your messenger, your ambassador, an envoy. Okay? This is what it is. So some can be a messenger that comes to give you a message. Some are there to guard and protect you. The cherubim are there to guard and protect. They were the quote-unquote guardian angels. And when you do what the psalmist says, check it out, right? Because you have made the Most High your dwelling place, the Most High who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague shall come to your tent. Why? For he will command his malakah, his plural, malakim, concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. When you read the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, the adversary, Hashatan, was quoting this and told Yeshua, jump off this cliff. Because it says in the scriptures, Psalm 91, that he will command these messengers to guard you in your ways, and they will bear you up lest your foot strike against a stone. This is a Hebrew idiom. Lest your foot strike against a stone, or lest you come upon some kind of injury. Why did they say your foot strike against a stone? Because in those days, if you walked on the ground, which some people did without sandals, you will be kicking a stone, or stones plural, and it will hurt your feet. So you wear sandals or shoes to protect your feet from striking a stone. Okay, anyway. So the cherubim are the guardians that we see. They're the guardians, right? So these entities are there to protect you. So that's neither here nor there. Let's go back into atonement. Let's go back to atonement. All right. Shout out Lest Any Man Boast. I see you here. All right. Andrew Cockerham. I see you, CDC. I see you. You Taylor 777. Shalom. All right. Thank you for joining us. Kidron. I see you. Shalom. Fear God. I see you. Shalom. All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So you see how I'm just doing this from the scriptures? I didn't even go to any extra biblical sources. I've read tons of them on it, but I'm just using the scripture to kind of show you some things. All right. All right. So check it out. All right. Let me go back. Let's go back. All right. So here we see that that he was creating a pattern because the cherubim are designed to guard. Now, let me give you another example. Now, remember when David's friend reached his hand out to stop the Ark of the Covenant from hitting the ground and he died? It's because that represented actual cherubim that was guarding that item, in which the Most High's presence was there. Wherever the Most High's presence with, there's other entities that are there to protect his presence. The reason why he died is because if he would have touched the mercy seat where the presence of Yah is, and he's a man that is unclean, that has not gone through the ritual of a Kohen, then he's going to be destroyed. He meant well, but he didn't do the right thing. Sometimes we mean well, and we don't do the right thing. We just do what we feel is right, but it's not really the right thing to do. There's an order. Okay, so he was struck dead by a guardian cherubim that killed him, because all those guardian cherubim are there to do is protect. Their focus is to protect the presence of Yah. And we have the Ruach, like the psalmist David said in Psalm 51, do not take your spirit from me. When we possess that, then the presence of Yah is there. Cherubim have to protect that. I'll let y'all munch on that some other time. Okay. However, Moses saw these guardian things that protected the presence of Yah. And then you had the seraphim that were there to praise the presence of Yah and to shield that glory. It's deep. So again, all of this has to do with atonement. Why? Because we're going to see that these entities, there are adversarial entities that were outside the garden. Now, when we say, remember when you read Ezekiel chapter 28, and it says the guardian cherub, right? In Ezekiel chapter 28, that he was in the Garden of Eden. That's metaphorical. It's referring to the king of Tyre. Because if you go to Byblos, right? Or if you go to Phoenicia, ancient Phoenicia, right? Tyre, you can say Tyre, not Byblos, but Tyre. There's a garden there that's called the Garden of the Gods. Matter of fact, let me show it to y'all. Deep stuff, man. This is the epithet of the king of Tyre. He's considered the anointed cherub that covers. The word Mashiach has been used for the king of Persia. Cyrus is called my anointed one. Nebuchadnezzar is called my shepherd. It has a pronominal suffix for what we call the pronominal suffix possessive, right? When you have the yod, the possessive construct is the suffix my shepherd, my anointed one. So Cyrus was called my anointed one by the Most High, because the Most High anoints these kings. And then pride is found in them. So look, check it out. Check it out. Let me show you this, man. Let me show you this, man. Let me show you this. It got me going crazy tonight. All right, we're going to look at the Lebanon forest, or what's called the Cedars of God. You can go and check it out yourself today. Matter of fact, when I go over there to the Levant, I want to go and visit the Lebanon cedar tree forest. It's called the Cedar Forest of God. It was also considered the Gan of the Elu, or the Garden of the Gods. Oh man. Let me show it to y'all, man. Let me show it to y'all. Check it out. Let me show you this article here on JSTOR. All right, check it out. Let me zoom in. All right. I got my JSTOR account on deck. I'm signing up for all this stuff. All right, we with it. Let me show it to y'all. Again, we're going to get to Atonement. I just got to get y'all to see some of this stuff first, all right? Sister Pam, that's interesting. Well, all we have from the narrative, it was supposed to keep man from the tree of life. Now, could it also prevent other entities from getting the tree of life? That's an excellent question. I would venture to say maybe. We're going to touch on that a little bit of it in a second. I'm just giving you breadcrumbs to study, but I got tons of sources. Sign up for the Patreon if you want more of this information because I loaded up with sources, right? But check it out. Let me show this to you, right? And again, I'm doing a quick search because I'm freestyling right now, but I have books and articles on these subject matters. But check it out, right? The background, this is from a source called The Background of the Cedar Forest Tradition and the Egyptian Tale of the Two Brothers and the Light of West Asian Literature, right? And it says, the Egyptian Tale of the Two Brothers describes how Bata spends time in the Lebanese valley of the Estri. This episode differs in certain aspects from the remainder of the text, also employing foreign motifs or themes, such as the creation of a woman to ease Bata's loneliness, the removal of his beating heart from his body, and his resuscitation, while still separate from it in the Egyptian gods wandering through the Lebanese valley. While several attempts have been made to identify the origin of this episode, none have been convincing. The paper examines the non-Egyptian motifs in light of the Babylonian and in biblical texts, suggesting that an ancient Levantine tradition, which left its traces on these, but to date has not been found in the Uri corpus, lies behind this section of this tale. Long story short, let me go back to show y'all. Long story short, right? This right here is the cedars of Lebanon, which Egyptians will go far to collect these cedar trees and bring them back to use for building projects, right? During the second intermediate period, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they also use this wood to make coffins, right? That's neither here nor there. It was believed that the cedars forest in Lebanon was the garden of the gods because it was so magnificent. It was so exquisite. It was so beautiful. And because the cedar trees were so tall, they believed that the gods planted them. The gods dwelt on top of them. Remember, in ancient times, height equates to getting closer to gods, right? And these cedars grew so high, they believed that it met with the gods, or the gods came down onto these trees to descend in that forest valley. It's incredible. So the king of Tyre was over this Lebanon forest, and he transversed through the forest. He controlled that forest, which was believed, if you read Mesopotamian origin stories, it's considered the garden of the gods. I know this is heavy. I know this was a little divergent, okay? But I had to share that with y'all, all right? All right. Okay. All right, so let's go transition from that into what we're talking about. So the key thing is there are adversarial forces that would dwell, right, in the earthly realm outside of the garden that they would need protection from, okay? That's the key thing, right? So we're going to see this in Atonement. Let's go now to Leviticus chapter 16, right? Let me go to Leviticus 16. Let me show you something, all right? Let's go to Leviticus 16. Yo, Jordan is interesting, man. I like that. It's funny. All right, let's keep going, man. This was an action-packed Freestyle Friday, man. You know what? I'm not even going to entertain the trolls tonight. I'll do that on another session. Let me just keep this for education session, all right? I'm sure a lot of y'all would agree with leaving the trolls alone tonight, all right? All right, so, and thank you for the donation, Jordan. I appreciate that, all right? So let's go to Leviticus chapter 16, verse 1, right? Not verse 1. I'm sorry. Yeah, verse 1. All right. This has to do with what? The Day of Atonement. Now, let me read this to you. All right. This is important. All right. Let me scroll down. Well, actually, let's read this. Right. Check it out. Right. The Most High spoke to Moshe after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron when they drew near before the Most High and died. And the Most High said to Moses, tell Aaron, your brother, not to come at any time into the holy place inside the veil before the mercy seat that is on the ark, so that he may not die. For I will appear in the cloud over the mercy seat. But in this way, Aaron shall come into the holy place with the bull from the herd for a sin offering to cover him of his sins, right? Any sin he committed, right? Because you got a guilt offering and a sin offering. All this is laid out in Leviticus chapter 1 to chapter 4, breaks down the 4 different types of offerings, right? You have a burnt offering, sin offering, guilt offering, and a peace offering or Thanksgiving offering, okay? The burnt offering and the peace Thanksgiving offering are voluntary offerings, right? They're called free will offerings. That means it's something that you give in addition to what's already required. And then you have your sin and guilt offering. One is for sins that are ignorant, and one is for sins that you did that was wrong, but they were not capital offense sins, and you were allowed to give an offering to atone for you, right? So he gave both a sin offering and a burnt offering. So he gave what was required to cover himself, and then he gave a burnt offering, something in addition to that. He shall put on the holy linen coat and shall have the linen undergarment on his body, and he shall tie the linen sash around his waist and wear the linen turban. These are the holy garments. He shall bathe his body in water, then put them on. Now, this is a mikveh, a mikvah. Why is that important? Because in the Brit Hadashah, when they are initiated into the order of Melchizedek, that Yeshua purports to have to be leading according to the narrative, right? When you are baptized in water, that is a rite of passage. It is so that way now when it's a rite of initiation to the order, so that now you can begin to serve without dying. It's deep. It's deep. We'll leave it alone. I touched on that in another lecture altogether called Capital Punishment, Human Atonement for Sin in the Bible. Go back and check that out, right? And they should take from the congregation of the people of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. So the ram for the burnt offering is voluntary, but check out the 2 male goats. Remember, when we read Genesis chapter 3, oh, wait, you know what? When I talk sometimes, I'm from New York, I talk with my hands. I'm glad you're not seeing the screen. Sometimes when I talk with my hands, it may seem like I'm forming symbols and stuff. It is just how I talk. There's this dude on Facebook that made a whole post about me making hand symbols. People reach. It's crazy. So I'm glad I put it just on the screen now so you can't see me while I'm talking, but check it. Now, why 2 goats? That's the question. Why 2 goats? Because when we go back to Genesis chapter 3, yeah, well, that is actually incorrect. That is incorrect. Ezekiel 28 is not about Lucifer. It is a lamentation that is brought about towards the king of Tyre. That's what it's about. Just like the king of Babylon is the lamentation brought against him, and in Isaiah 14 has nothing to do with Lucifer. Lucifer is not even in the Hebrew text. It doesn't exist there. Okay? So for those of you who are still holding on to Christian dogma and doctrines, you must kill it and leave it at the door. You can't bring it into this holy place of conversation. All right? All right. So anyway, so why is he bringing a goat? Remember, we read in Genesis chapter 3, when the Most High covered Adam and Eve, he used what we saw. He used tunics, right? Tunics of skin, in which he caused them to be covered, right? So these tunics of skin, when we go to the next verse that uses that same word that we see for skins, it relates to a goat. Goat skin. Remember, a sacrifice. We connecting the dots. The sacrifice. Okay? The connection, the sacrifice. So now 2 goats are given. Why? Check it out. Let's keep going. I'm going to show you this, okay? Aaron shall offer the bull as a sin offering for himself and shall make atonement for himself and his household. Then he shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Most High at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 goats, one for the Most High and the other for the scapegoat. No. There's no such word as scapegoat in Hebrew. It doesn't exist. That's an English translation. Poor translation. Azazel. Let's see that in the Hebrew, right? I want to show you something in the Hebrew. Check it out. Anybody who's doubting this, right? Check it out. It says, Goral Echad, Yahweh, We Goral Echad La Azazel. But here you see it should say La Yahweh, La Yahweh. They forgot to transliterate the lamed prefix, which is to or towards. It's a preposition. It says Goral Echad La Yahweh. So one lot goes towards Yahweh, and We Goral Echad La Azazel. One goes towards who? Azazel. It is written almost the same. I'm not going to say almost the same. It's written the same towards 2 specific entities. There's a wandering spirit that is outside the camp of Israel that is responsible for consuming Israel, leading Israel astray, bringing them into sin because it is the source of sin in conjunction with his peer. We're going to see that in 1 second. This is from an oral tradition that we find out that was written during the Grecian captivity, that was laid down in the Grecian captivity. I'm going to get there in a second. But 1 goat is sacrificed. Check it out. Let's keep going. Right? And Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Most High and use it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Most High to what? Make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness. This is a totally different type of thing that's going on. All right? And shall present the bull. Aaron shall present the bull as a sin offering for himself and shall make atonement for himself and his household. He shall kill the bull as a sin offering for himself. And then it goes on to show what he was supposed to do with the blood of it. And she shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the front of the mercy seat on the east side. Remember, you keep saying this term east, east, east. Why the east? East is where the entrance to things are. It's a reason why the east is. The north has a particular importance. But direction and what those mean in the ancient times is another conversation altogether. Right? In front of the mercy seat, he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his fingers. Then he shall what? Kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people and bring his blood inside the veil and do with his blood as he did with the blood of the bull, sprinkling it over the mercy seat and in front of the mercy seat. Thus he shall make atonement for the holy place because what? Of the uncleanliness of the people of Israel and because of their transgressions, all their sins. Sometimes people say that during this time period, that capital offenses were forgiven as well. Because it says all their sins. This is deep, man. This is deep. Y'all don't see this. People don't see this stuff, but we bringing it out, man. Let's go back and verify that in the Hebrew, okay? Here it is. Let's go see. Lekal, to all hatotam. Hatotam. Lekal hatotam. For all their sins. So it's believed or it's implied that those who committed capital offenses, a provision is there once a year for you to be exonerated of that sin and reintegrated back into society. This is deep. This is deep. So the provision for redemption or the forgiveness of the transgressions of the sins of Israel exists because of this provision here, that the Most High will even forgive the sins that are capital offenses and just want to come in Isaiah chapter 1 and reason with the people. Y'all missed that. Y'all missed that. But somebody got it. Somebody got it. I love y'all. Walk with me. Walk with me. All right? All right. Check it out. So this key thing that we're looking at here, let's go back. Let's keep reading. No one may be in the tent of meeting from the time he enters to make atonement in the holy place until he comes out and has made atonement for himself and for his house and for all the assembly of Israel. Then he shall go out to the altar that is before the Most High and make atonement for it, and shall take some of the blood of the bull and some of the blood of the goat and put it on the horns of the altar all around, and he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times and cleanse it and consecrate it from the uncleanness of the people of Israel. This is something totally different. It's another conversation, right? What I want you to take note of is that the bull was sacrificed for Aaron and his family, his household. The goat was sacrificed for the children of Israel so they could be atoned for their sins, right? However, the goat that was sent out was a reminder offering to another deity that wandered the desert. You got to understand this before you can get into atonement, Day of Atonement. You got to understand this background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from the oral tradition of Israel, right? Whether you accept it as canon or not is another conversation, and that's not what I'm here to argue. I'm simply saying that it is an oral tradition that it did exist amongst the Israelites that was laid down for the first time during the Grecian captivity, is what's called the Book of Enoch, right? Let's go to the Book of Enoch for 1 second because it captures some of this oral tradition as it pertains to who this character Azazel is, which also connects to Azazel's companion or associate or partner in crime. The other individual that the oral tradition states is the Nakash that led Eve astray. And if we were to take this for face value and look and try to harmonize it, it would mean that these Nakash, these Nakashim or these Seraphim, these so-called messengers or watchers were actually Seraphim. But they were Seraphim that was designated to be watchers. And because they were in the abode of the earth, they had some kind of transformation where they can intercourse with women. Now, that's another conversation together. Some people say, oh, that's the daughters of men and the sons of Ben and Elohim. Elohim is referring to the sons of Seth. That's the newer rendition of it during the Second Temple period, and we have evidence to prove that. Nonetheless, we're going to get into this book of Enoch. So let's jump into the Book of Enoch. I want to show you something in the Book of Enoch just to show you something, because the Book of Enoch attempts to give more information on the little breadcrumbs that we read in the text, right? So this is the oral tradition, right? So check out. Richard Long, if we look at typologies, he could be. Yes. If we look at typologies, he could be. Yes. All right. So let's get the Book of Enoch. We're going to read this. Book 1, chapter 9 and chapter 10. We're going to bring something out. This is the R.H. Charles translation, okay? And there's 3 versions of the Book of Enoch. There's the fragments found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's the Ethiopic version and the Slavonic version, all right? And there's different translations. The R.H. Charles did his translation back in 1917, and then there's been more recent translations since him, okay? Since his translation, all right? So let me go and pull it up here. You got to understand all this background, and then we're going to culminate that. We're going to see it, all right? We're going to get to it in 1 second, right? So check it out. Let's go here to the Book of Enoch, section 1, all right? First Enoch, section 1, chapter 9. And then Michael, well, this might be small for y'all, so just bear with me. Let me make it a little bigger. Should be able to see it now. All right, and then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said one to another, the earth made without inhabitants cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. This is the blood that cried. The same thing we saw that happened with Abel, that his blood cried to the Most High. And this is why the Most High was able to go and deal with Cain. Same thing happened in the New Testament book of Revelation, where the saints were crying out from under the altar. Altar has to do with the sacrifice, that they were killed and their blood, or brought their voices up to the heavens. Okay, this is a Hebraic idiom. Okay, and it says, and they said to the Lord of ages, look to the Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and the God of all ages. The throne of thy glory standeth until all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed into all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Now check it out. Check this verse out. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on the earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Semjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. Let's go down to chapter 10. Right? We're going to see something key in here. Chapter 10. Watch this. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake and said to Uriel, to the son of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him that the end is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening where? In the Midbar, in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. And heal the earth, which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish, through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. You know, watchers still existed, and they persisted all the way until the time of Daniel, because Daniel mentions a watcher, a holy one. Okay. And watch this. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that they were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. The goat that they send to Azazel is to bear the sins of the world. And they're sending it back to its progenitor, which is Azazel. That is why a goat is left alive and sent to the desert outside the camp of Israel, because of this oral tradition. And that is to appease this wandering desert entity, so that it may not attack the children of Israel and or lure them away into the secret arts of the world, and cause them to transgress against the statute, laws, and commandments with the covenant deity in which they had a pact with the children of Israel. That's why you see Azazel, which means the rugged of Yah, the rugged one of Yah. Why? Because his name is based on the judgment in which he suffered. And they created a theophoric name with L suffix, a theophoric name, which has the name of a deity within the name, and is normally the attribute of the deity in the name. And when the name is said, it's thought to invoke the attribute of the deity upon the life of the bearer of the title of the name, right? This is why the goat is not slain, because the goat that is slain is a reminder of the work that Yah initiated in the Ghana garden, that the high priest is given the task to replicate, because it's designed to cover. The spilling of that blood is designed to cover the children of Israel. This is important. And this is why the oral tradition book. So the book of Enoch, from my position, has antiquated, authentic elements of it, and it has some late elements of it. The archaic elements of it, I subscribe to. The late elements of it are things that was added later. If you want information on that, there's a book on the Patreon that goes into the book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher. Go check that book out on the Patreon to find more information on the background of the book of Enoch. It gives you a whole preface before you read the book of Enoch. And then I think I have an article on there that goes even further on how to identify the integrated parts of Enoch and the late parts of Enoch. All right. All right. So this is the important thing, right? That Azazel was a watcher. Now, check it out. I'm going to go into another part of the book of Enoch. First Enoch, section 2. All right, hold on. Let me find it. First Enoch, section 2. Let's go here. Let's see. Hold on. My bad. Hold on. Let me get it. Chapter 69. That's it. Chapter 69. All right, I got it right here. Let me show it to y'all. All right, here we go. First Enoch, section 2, chapter 69. And after this judgment, they shall terrify and make them to tremble, because they have shown this to those who dwell on the earth. And behold the names of those angels. And these are their names. The first of them is Semjaza. The second is Artakifa. And the third is Armen. The fourth is Kokabel. The fifth is Turael. The sixth is Rumjal. The seventh is Danjal. The eighth is Nakael. The ninth is Barakel. The 10th is Azazel. The 11th is Armaras. The 12th is Batarjal. The third is Busasajal. The 14th is Hananel. The 15th is Turel. The 16th is Simma Pesiel. The 17th is Jethrel. The 18th is Tumael. The 19th is Turel. The 20th is Rumael. The 21st is Azazel. And these are the chiefs of their angels and their names, and their chief ones over hundreds, over 50s, and over 10s. The name of the first is Jekon. That is the one who led astray all the sons of God and brought them down to the earth and led them astray through the daughters of men. So it's believed that these watchers, they resided on mountaintops, and from the mountains and the clouds, they're able to look down on the affairs of men. We see this motif in other ancient Near Eastern texts, right? And it says, and the second name was Asbeel. He imparted to the holy sons of God evil counsel and led them astray so that they defiled their bodies with the daughters of men. And check it out. And the third was named Gadriel. He it is who showed the children of men all the blows of death, and he led astray Eve and showed the weapons of death to the sons of men, the shield and the coat of mail and the sword for battle, and all the weapons of death to the children of men. And from his hand they have proceeded against those who dwell on the earth from the day and forevermore. So, according to the oral tradition encapsulated in the book of Enoch, first Enoch, right? We see that it says Gadriel, who was one of the watchers, along with Azazel, was the one that deceived Eve. He was the Nakash in the garden. And when we go to the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, we see when the brazen serpent, the Nakushtan, was erected, there was an interchange between the word Nakash and Seraphim, and even Nekashim HaSeraphim is there. It's interchange. Mosai said, hey, I want you to make this Nakash, and he made a Seraph. Same thing. Interchangeable. So these watchers were some type of, if we're going to look at harmonizing everything, some type of Seraphim. They were some type of Seraphim. Right? So you have those that dwelt in the heavenly realm that we saw in Isaiah 6, and you got those that dwelt on mountaintops, or that was in the realm here of the earth, and they had to be transformed in some kind of way so that they can exist in this realm and that they can have physical bodies that can interface with mankind. Okay? This is according to the oral tradition. And again, this type of theme or motif is not uncommon in the ancient Near East. Okay. So anyway. All right. So I wanted to lay that down so that way we understand that. Now, why is all this important? So you can understand in regards to atonement, what the story is, right, behind atonement. Okay. Now, let's go to Leviticus. I'm going to end off, and I have 3 more scriptures, and I'm done. All right. 3 more scriptures, and I'm done. Okay. All right. So Get Wise says, I thought this deity was imprisoned. Well, according to this narrative, it seems as though he was imprisoned, right? But his essence plagued that area. So the desert area in which he was imprisoned was believed to be plagued. That anybody that went in that area of the desert where he was imprisoned, he still had influence from his prison. And that the essence of his teaching the arts and so forth, that it can swoon men that go in that region. Hence why they send this goat to appease that entity, because they're sending the goat to bear the sins of the people back to the one who, according to the oral tradition, has led all the people astray and had all sin was ascribed to him. In some other traditions, they believe that there were wandering spirits in the Arabian desert. They believe they called the jinn, these wandering desert spirits that were there to prey on mankind because of some incident or event that occurred in the past. If you keep reading the book of Genesis chapter 6, you see the Nephilim, and then here you see these entities. Now the Nephilim, the Rephaim are 2 different things. It's a book called the Rephaim, very interesting book. I recommend you go pick it up. However, the Nephilim and the Rephaim are 2. The Rephaim is literally the giants. The Nephilim are the men of old, men of renown. It's different. They're not giants. However, later oral traditions start to ascribe the Nephilim as giants. But the biblical account in Genesis 6 calls them the Nephilim. And when you go into the book of Enoch, it says that after they die, these giants, after they die, a portion of them spirits continue to live, right? Which means some of them would be the offspring of Azazel. And they were believed to have lived in the desert area. And because the desert rarely produces life, they have to suck the life of those who pass through the desert. And this is why sometimes goats or other sacrifices are given to these desert gods when you're transversing the desert, so you're not afflicted in the desert. Why? Because when you're in the desert period and you don't get water and food, you get delirious, you start hallucinating, so to see these entities, and it seems as if they're attacking you. So what you do is you give sacrifices and offerings to these desert deities so you can find food or pastures or springs while you're in the desert to sustain you. Okay. All right. Hopefully y'all getting it. You're following so far. And the other scriptures I mentioned previously, you can go back and look it up yourselves on the replay, right? In the replay, I know the screen seemed like it was frozen, but it wasn't. It was just on one tab. But you can look up the scriptures yourself on the replay and just follow along, okay? Just ignore the fact that it looks frozen there, all right? All right. So let's get Leviticus 23. Now, Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, or Vayikra, and he called, right? Vayikra was written as a protocol reference guide to the priest, to the Kohanim, right? So when we get to Leviticus chapter 3, it's written in a format for the priest to read and for the priest to utilize in order for them to calculate when the feast day, because that was their job. This is why when you juxtapose it against Devarim chapter 16, which we're going to go into as well, in Devarim chapter 16, you don't see no mention there of the Day of Atonement at all. No mention of the Day of Atonement. Because when the people would afflict their souls and they would take off from work and they'll do this evening to evening, it's anywhere. I like that. Spiritual taxation. It's anywhere. You don't have to be in the land to do that. Right? As long as the temple is there, the high priest is there, you don't need to go to the land to do that. All right? The feast in which you do your hug, your circling, which we get to similar to what your hagag or hageg, which is similar to the hajj in Arabic, has to do with the circling, making a trip or taking a pilgrimage to a particular site. In this case, is the place in which he places his name, which then later became Jerusalem. Wasn't always Jerusalem, right? But that's neither here nor there, right? You can do this anywhere in conjunction with the work of the high priest. But today, there is no high priest. Today, there is no temple. Today, there is no two gods with lots of fallen on. There is no bull in which the high priest is atoning from himself and his children, and then has to go and wash in the lavatory, right? Has to go wash before he can even do anything on behalf of the people. None of that is here today. So if you're keeping this as a memorial, for those who are Tanakh only or Torah only, it's just a memorial, right? So the afflicting of your soul and the evening to evening, no work, whatever, that is optional. If you don't do it, it's fine. Now, if you do it, you could do it in accordance with of what we're going to read in Hebrew chapter 9, which I'm going to get to in a second. If you follow what's called the Brit Hadashah, or you can simply just do it as a memorial, if you're Tanakh only, as a memorial for what your ancestors went through. It's called the Zikron. That's your memorial. Okay? So let's get Leviticus chapter 23 again, which is the script that was written for the priest to follow in order to calculate time. Devarim chapter 16 was written for the laymen, the common man, the civilians. That these are the 3 times a year they're supposed to appear in a place where the Most High places his name, because that's where the temple stood and that's where his presence was over the ark. That's not there today. Okay? All right. So check it out. House of Maccabi, you're referring to the calendrical element of the book of Enoch. I would just refer to the narrative in reference to the watchers. Okay? All right. So let's get Leviticus chapter 23. 3 more scriptures and I'm out of here. I know this was a pretty lengthy session. We're on 2 hours and 41 minutes. If you missed anything, go back on the replay and catch it. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, Leviticus chapter 23. The Most High spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, these are the appointed feasts, the Moedim, of the Most High. You shall proclaim as set apart callings. The root word is kara there. They are my appointed feasts. They're the Most High's feasts that he inviting you to the table. It's his feast. He's just inviting you to the table. This is when we see symbolism in the book of Revelation chapter 19, the banquet of the Most High, and you're invited to the feast. This is his feast. He's inviting you to. Keep that in mind. He said, these are my appointed feasts. Okay. Now we're going to jump down to the Day of Atonement. All right. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 26. And the Most High spoke to Moshe, saying, now on the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be for you a time of holy convocation, a set apart calling together, and you shall afflict yourselves, afflict your souls, and present a food offering to the Most High. And you shall not do any work on that very day, for it is a day of atonement. Now, what I want you to see is this word atonement. Let's get into that word atonement. Okay. Here it is. You see this? Kaf, pe, resh is your root. Le, kap, per. Le, kap, per. This root word here is where you get the word, kippah. It's a derivation of it. It's kippah, kufi, etc. Right? And let's see what that word means. Right? To cover over, pacify, or make propitiation. Okay? Now, in this case, it's a verb in the PL stem. PL is your intensive active action, right? So you go into the PL stem usage of it. The root word is kafar. You get, hold on. Oh, I don't know why I was doing that. Kafar, PL stem is here. And you look up for the entry where it mentions the entry. In this case, we're in the book of what? Leviticus. To cover over, pacify, or propitiate. To cover, atone for sin without sacrifice. In this case, it requires a sacrifice. So that's not what we're saying. With the Most High, with the accusative of person, to cover, i.e. treat as covered Why? Because now when the Most High covered them, he caused them to be covered with coats of skin. This ritual that is performed by the priest is a zikaron, a memorial of the Most High covering Israel. This is where the providence of this ritual goes back to. Okay. All right. Cover over, atone over for sin and persons by legal rights. We see here Leviticus 16 and 32. With the accusative of sacred places, we're not dealing with that. But here we get Leviticus 16 because that talks about atonement, right? And then you go Leviticus 16, 18, things of the altar, which the blood for the sin offering, which we go into, etc., etc. Here we go, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 28, right? By ministry of the priest through the blood of sin offering, okay? So it just literally means a covering, right? So it's a covering, right? And this is why the goats are killed, because goat skins is more than likely what's used to cover Adam and Eve. Right? This is why goats is mentioned in Leviticus 16. This is the connection between everything. Okay? All right. It says, for whoever is not afflicted on that very day shall be cut off from his people, and whoever does any work on that very day, that person I will destroy from among his people. You shall not do any work. It is a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwelling places. It shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest, a Shabbaton. Let's confirm that so you can see it, right? A Shabbaton. All right, and this is what you mentioned. We see this as well as a Shabbat of rest or a Sabbath of rest. You see this mentioned elsewhere in regards to, let's say, Exodus chapter 31, where it talks about the Sabbath, or Exodus chapter 16, where it talks about the Sabbath, right? The same thing as you, Shabbat, Shabbaton, and I've broken that down in previous live streams, right? And it says, it shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest, and you shall afflict yourselves on the 9th day of the month, beginning at evening. Key thing is the 9th day at evening. From evening to evening shall you keep your Sabbath. The reason why it has to specify evening to evening, because the regular Sabbath was only a rest from sunrise to sunset, not evening to evening. But in the case of atonement, it is evening to evening. But this is done in accordance with the work that the priest is doing in the inner sanctuary. Okay? The priest is no longer there, not doing his work. So if you do this, it's optional as a memorial. Okay? Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 16. This is the one for the layman, written for the layman in exilic or post-exilic Israel. All right? Where Devarim, or words plural, right, was written or laid out. In Devarim, you only see Passover, you only see Feast of Weeks, and you only see Feast of Booths. Verse 16 says, 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before the Most High your power at the place that he will choose, at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, at the Feast of Weeks, and at the Feast of Booths. They shall not appear before the Most High empty-handed. Why? Because you have to give an offering at the temple. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Most High your power that he has given you. So as long as the place where he puts his name has the temple, you are not to come empty-handed, but in your diaspora. Let's go to Devarim chapter 30. In your diaspora, and when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind amongst all the nations with the Most High your power has exiled or driven you, and return to the Most High your power, you and your children, and obey his voice in all the statutes and commands that I command you today with all your heart and with all your soul, then the Most High your power will restore your fortunes and have mercy on you, and he will gather you again from all the peoples from where the Most High your power has scattered you. If you're outcast or in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there the Most High your power will gather you, and from there he will take you. And the Most High your power will bring you into the land that your fathers possessed, that you may possess it, and he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. And the Most High your power will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Most High your power with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. Circumcision happens 3 times. Physically, you perform it. Spiritually, you perform it through repentance. And the third one is the Most High comes in after you do the first 2. All right. And then if you go to verse 11, it says, for this command that I command you today is not too difficult, hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who will ascend to heaven for us and bring it to us that we may hear it? Neither is beyond the sea that you shall say, Who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us that we may hear and do it? But the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart so that you can do it. Don't let nobody tell you that you cannot keep these statutes, laws, and commandments. Even in your captivity, there's an exhortation that you obey all that Yah has commanded you. So even if you can't physically perform it because we're in exile, the spiritual essence or the axiom of it still exists that can still be applied in a contemporary setting today. And we have a whole series coming up where we're going to go through each and every one of them to walk you through that. All right. All right. All right. So let's wrap that up. So Deuteronomy chapter 16, we see there's no mention of Day of Atonement. And the reason for that is because when this was written in exile, when it was written in post-exile, when it was returning back to the land, the temple was not there. It was not there. But they wanted all of Israel to still come back and have this annual season. It became a national holiday or gathering, right? Through the reign of Hezekiah and Josiah, right? They began these reforms to make it national. Prior to that, in the book of Exodus, like the Passover, for example, was committed within your home. People kept the feast days locally. It was only until we had a decree from the king to nationalize it that it became a nationwide event. And exile and post-exile, they wanted to regather Israel and restore their national identity. This is why we see it mentioned here for them to come back, all your males to come back on during these 3 times of the year, right? One is the bringing in of the year. The second one is the middle of the year. The third is the turn of the year, the final part of the year before these wintry rains came, right? That's Deuteronomy chapter 30 tells us that we should also, in some way, shape, or form, be keeping these things, right? Even when we are in exile, okay? Because even when the temple was rebuilt, second temple was rebuilt, there were still Israelites that was in exile, most notably the northern tribes. There were still some northern tribes still in Israel, but a lot of them was already exiled and scattered. A lot of them did not return, right? So they also could have kept atonement because when the temple was restored, the high priest was going in and doing his work, okay? All right, so let's get to the last scripture. Now, for those of you who hold to the Brit Hadashah and the book of Ibrit chapter 9, we see that we don't have to keep the Day of Atonement anymore because Yeshua gave an offering of himself. He was a martyr. He had allowed himself to be killed for the sake of regathering Israel and for him to be completely obedient to the assignment that Yah has given him, so he may be head of the order of Melchizedek and perform work in the sanctuary in Shamayim. Let's get Hebrews chapter 9 and let's close this out. All right. I know I want to do a Q&A, but we're not going to have a lot of time. We went into a lot of stuff on tonight that's going to take some time to chew on and absorb. But let's get Hebrews chapter 9. Let's get Hebrews chapter 9. Okay. Let's jump down. I mean, you could read the whole chapter, right? Where it talks about the mediator of the covenants, right? Therefore, he is the mediator, Yeshua, of a new covenant, so that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance, since a death has occurred that redeems them from their transgressions committed under the first covenant. For where a will is involved, the death of one who made it must be established, for will takes effect only at death, since it is not in force as long as the one who made it is alive. Therefore, not even the first covenant was inaugurated without blood. For when every commandment of the law had been declared by Moses to all the people, he took the blood of calves and goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book itself and all the people, saying, "This is the blood of the covenant that the Most High commanded you." And in the same way, he sprinkled with the blood both the tent and all the vessels used in worship. Indeed, under the law, almost everything is purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins, right? So just so that we have this in context, in Hebrews chapter 8, we understand who the new covenant is for, right? So the author of Hebrews cites the book of Jeremiah, for he finds fault with them when he says, this is why he has to create a second covenant. Behold, the days are coming, declares the Most High, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, for they did not continue in my covenant. So I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant I will make with who? The house of Israel after those days, declares the Most High. I will put my laws in their minds and write them in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. How is this done? Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 19, Ezekiel chapter 36, verses 25 to 27 explains all of that for you. It is he will sprinkle you clean with water. He will remove the heart of flesh, right? The heart of stone, give you a heart of flesh. And then from there, he will embed into you with that new heart that he's given to you, right? All the statute, laws, and commandments, so you don't have to ask neighbor, what is this and what is that? You will already know. And that is what the Ruach HaKodesh, or the spirit that's mentioned in the New Testament, is supposed to do. It's supposed to write these laws on your heart and on your mind. And when that happens, now you are partaking in the initiatory stages of the new covenant. Okay, but let's go back to Hebrews chapter 9. Let's jump down. All right, here it is. Verse 23. Thus it was necessary for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these rites, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Mashiach, right? Christ has entered not into holy places made with hands, which are copies of the true things, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of the Most High power on our behalf. Now, remember, we read in the book of Exodus that the Most High told Abraham, I'm bugging. I'm sleepy. I'm getting sleepy. That's why I'm going to end this soon. Told Moses, all these things I'm telling you to do, Moses, do it after the pattern of what I'm showing you on this mountain. So he looked in a portal, seen something, and Moses was to make a copy of what he saw in the earth. So now, if there's a sanctuary in the heavenly realm, right, only one that is obedient, who is initiated into the order of Melchizedek. This is why he told John, I have to be baptized, because we got to showcase that the Levitical order is now being passed to the Melchizedek order. The Melchizedek order has been nuzzled in and hidden amongst the children of Judah when the Midianites, who was the carriers of this gift conferred on Midian, the son of Abraham, that passed all the way down to Jethro, and to Jethro's son, who was Moses' brother-in-law, who Moses says, please come with me into the land, because you have eyes to see things we can't see. And that sect entered with them and settled with Judah, and they kept with them amongst Judah the priesthood. And the priesthood was awakened through David. The Most High says, you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek. And then we see in the book of 2 Samuel that David's sons were also Kohanim. So the bloodline of David maintains that order of Melchizedek. Hence why genealogy had to be showed in the book of Matthew of Yeshua, connecting him back to David. And then through the assignment that he received, and he committed all the way to his martyrdom, to his death, now he was allowed to enter into this holy sanctuary that Moses made a copy of, and to atone for us once and for all, for those who subscribe and are initiated into this order, this right that this high priest is in, that we also become priests. And we all, let's go here, fulfill right here, Exodus 19:5. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. Verse 6. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel. Well, Israel already had a priesthood. How could all of them be priests? That can only happen in their exile. And in their exile, when you take on another priesthood, it doesn't say you're going to be a kingdom of Levitical priests, but of priests in exile, right? Yeshua came to initiate that Melchizedek order to allow those who subscribe or go through the rites of passage through it to be part of that order of Melchizedek. And this goes to all the children of Israel, because Yeshua came to say that I have a flock that's not in this fold. He came to bring together the two sticks, the north and southern tribes, that anybody from Israel or from Judah can be initiated in the order of Melchizedek and fulfill the priesthood duty that the Most High prophesied here in his Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6. All right, let's go back. For Christ has entered not into the holy places made with hands, which are copies of the true things, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. Nor was it to offer himself repeatedly as the high priest enters the holy places every year with blood not his own, for then he would have had to suffer repeatedly since the foundation of the world. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And just as it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment, so Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of all, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly waiting for him. Now, here's the key thing, right? In the end time, you will have a restoration of the Levitical law, the Levitical priesthood, right? So Yeshua currently, as the head priest of the order of Melchizedek, has done a work that allows us to enter into the order of Melchizedek and complete his assignment in the earth while he works as a priest in the heavenly realm. But when the Most High restores, check this out, right? When he restores things back on the earth, right, during that quote-unquote millennial reign that we see in the book of Isaiah, etc., Yeshua is not going to be playing the role as the priest anymore, because the Levites are going to be restored. He's going to be the branch. He's going to be the king representative of the Most High. So you got to understand this transition. And this is not a weird transition. You have the oral tradition from the rabbis try to figure it out with the two Messiah theory. And then in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you have the Melchizedek scroll try to work out this thing of some kind of spiritual purification through the order of Melchizedek, and then some king from Israel coming out and ruling and reigning. The New Testament just gives you its version. Right? Well, let's check it out. Let's see this real quick. I'm gonna get this real quick for you, right? Check it out. Let me get this for you. Let's get Isaiah chapter 66. I see Brooks. I said, I accept the parts of Enoch that can be authenticated as being antiquated, being old, the old parts of the book of Enoch, which is the oral tradition encased within a larger narrative. Some of the books of Enoch is a late work. Some of it is a much older work that comes from an oral tradition. Those are the parts I ascribe to. Do I see it as canon? Not necessarily, but I see it as complementary to the canon. Just like the book of Jubilees was written as a commentary to the canon, I see the book of Enoch similarly, right? That's my position, all right? Richard Long, he's initiating that process, all right? And that's why we have the Ruach to assist with initiating that process. That's why the healing that took place and the miracles and all of that is just examples of the sustenance, the lack of sickness, taking away of every tear and so forth. You have the apostles, and Yeshua was doing these miracle works as an endowment of power to give people a sample of the kingdom to come. And the spirit is to give you that peace or that shalom in the interim. That's why you're not worried about what happens to this mortal bodies. That's why Yeshua says, fear not him that can kill the body and can do no more. Yeah, I tell you, fear him that can kill the body and soul in Gehenna, in the form of fiery destruction. Okay. All right, let's go Isaiah 66 and let's close out. All right, so it says here, for I know their works and their thoughts, and the time is coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and shall see my glory, and I will set a sign among them, and from them I will send survivors to the nations, to Tarshish, Pol, and Lud, who draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the coastlands far away that have not heard my fame or seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the nations. Now check this out. And they shall bring all your brothers from all the nations as an offering to the Most High, on horses and in chariots and in litters and on mules and dromedaries, which are camels, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says the Most High, just as the Israelites bring their grain offering in a clean vessel to the house of the Lord. When they bring these offerings, in Deuteronomy chapter 16, those 3 times they have to appear to Jerusalem, the place where he places the name without being empty. Now check this. And some of them also I will take for priests and for Levites, says the Most High. For as the new heavens and new earth that I make shall remain before me, says the Most High, so shall your offering and your name remain. From new moon to new moon, from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Most High. Right? So what does this mean is that there will be a restoration of the Levitical order. And if you go into Micah 4, right here, it says, it shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the house of the Most High shall be established at the highest of the mountains, and it shall be lifted above the hills, and the people shall flow to it. Why? What does this mean? That means whatever power, God, or entity resides on the highest mountain is El Elyon, or El Elyon is the most high power. That's why a lot of battles vied over several things, but two major things was water sources and mountains. Hills. Because a mountain is higher than hills, right? And it says, and many nations shall come and say, come, let us go to the mountain of the Most High, to the house of the power of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, that we may learn to walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word from the Most High, from Jerusalem of the Most High. He shall judge between many peoples. He shall decide disputes for strong nations far away, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. This was not fulfilled during the creation of the state of Israel in 1948. Sorry, this is not what happened. There's still warfare going on there right now. Okay. All right. So Yeshua's doing a temporary work. It's called the contingency plan. After Israel failed to keep their end of the bargain in the first covenant, he has initiated the second covenant, which has not been completed. It's been initiated, but it has not been completed. Yeshua, through his martyrdom, used his death as a means to gather all nation Israel together in his name, in his reputation. That's what name means. To initiate them in the order of Melchizedek, to perform the work of regathering the lost sheep of Israel, being priests unto the nations, giving them the word of the Most High. And that's going to be maintained until we have what's called the Battle of Armageddon. And then we have this millennial reign. Millennial reign came during that period of time. The Gentiles that cleaved unto Israel will serve them within the kingdom, and all others will be on the outside, because all others on the outside will be taken away with the Hashatan, who will be released from his prison and gather those nations outside of that kingdom of Israel to war, and then they will be destroyed. But during that period of time, Yeshua will no longer be that high priest. He did his work. He will be a king if you subscribe to Brit Hadashah. I'm just trying to work out the New Testament theology for those who subscribe to it. And when that occurs, or when it happens, now he's going to be in the place as the king, because he already served as the priest. And we see this similar in the book of Zechariah, where it says that between the two offices of king and priest, there will be peace amongst them, or unity amongst them. This is what Yeshua came to restore. This is a typology that is being renewed in Yeshua's assignment that we see laid out during the restoration of the children of Israel, or attempt at the restoration of children of Israel when they return back to the land to rebuild the city, the temple, and the walls. Okay. So in short, the Day of Atonement, we gave the history of it, the origin of it, some insights into it. As far as keeping it, if you want to keep it, it is you rehearsing righteous acts, or you doing it as a zikron or a memorial. You can't literally keep it because there's no temple, no high priest doing that work to do that in conjunction with. For those of you who want to keep it, it's optional. It's up to you. But if you're going to afflict your soul by fasting, I read in the book Isaiah how to truly fast, the work that you are obliged to do. But those of you who subscribe to the Brit Hadashah, you don't have to do feasts of, not the feast, excuse me. You don't have to do Day of Atonement or Yom Kippur, simply because Yeshua had performed that work on a higher plane in the heavenly sanctuary on behalf of those who will come into the order of Melchizedek, right? So you don't have to do it because he did that work already. However, when we go into Sukkot, which is right after Day of Atonement, that is something that will be restored in the end times. We go to Zechariah chapter 14, and we can see the restoration of the Feast of Tabernacles, hence why we should keep it. Zechariah 14 and 16, and everyone who survives of all the nations that have come against Jerusalem, right? This is the war, Armageddon, war, shall go up year after year to worship the king. right? For those who subscribe to the New Testament, that's Yeshua. Tanakh only, that may be David or a son of David or whoever, the Lord of hosts, and to keep what? The Feast of Booths, Sukkot, Tabernacles. And if any of the families of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, there will be no rain on them. And if the family of Egypt does not go up and present themselves, then there shall be no rain. There shall be the plague, with the Most High afflicts the nation that do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. This shall be the punishment to Egypt and the punishment to all nations that do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. This is during that millennial reign period. All right, so that we are to continuously keep, because that will also be restored in the end times. And I did a whole lecture on the Feast of Booths in 2019 that you can find on this channel as well. All right. All right, with that, I'm done. I think that was pretty comprehensive, even though that is still the abridged version. There's a lot more information I can go into on this, but I'm going to stop right here. Richard, when and where can we ask questions of your ministry other than today? You can email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, or you can schedule an appointment to speak with us. The link is in the description below on how to schedule a phone appointment to chat with us. You click the link, and then you can pick a date and time that works for you, and we'll speak to you then. All right. And yes, I know I didn't get to show any sources. However, I want you to go to Patreon, type in Calend, C-A-L-E-N-D, in the search, and you'll see all the books that come out on the calendars, the feast days, their origin, etc., that can unpack this even more than what I could on tonight. All right. So I'm glad you guys rocked with me to almost 2:30 in the morning. Well, after 2:30 in the morning, we had a 3-hour, 10-minute session, jam-packed. For those of you watching this on a replay, shalom. Thank you in advance for any donations you have given, for the time that you spent listening to this, watching this, and sharing this. And again, please, if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. All right. Share this video on all social media platforms. If you're brand new, hit subscribe. And what I want you guys to do is to go back and you can take a look at this channel in the archives and see that I've covered Passover. I've covered unleavened bread. I've covered trumpets. I've covered Atonement. I've covered Sukkot. The only thing I didn't cover really is Feast of Weeks or Shavuot. I haven't covered Shavuot, but I will do that next year. That's my goal, to do it for next year. All right. But if you go here and you want teaching in depth like this on all the feast days, you can find it on this channel. All right. All right. So I hope that helps, family. Thank you for watching. Our Q&A will be reserved for our next live stream, since this one was really done with Atonement. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. All right. Thank you. I will listen to this again, and probably again will definitely share with my family. I know which one of my relatives would love it. Shalom, Dr. Ron. Thank you, Sister Aviyah. V, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully you share that. All right. And again, family, thank you for all your support, for sharing this in advance, for hitting the thumbs up, for all your donation support. And if anybody needs any assistance or aid from us as a ministry, emails at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. If you want that calendar we showed you earlier, the link is in the description on how you can get it. And if you need that COVID vaccine religious exemption letter, all right, from us, the link is in the description below for you to get that as well. All right. We're doing what we can to help the community in the best way that we can, through education and through the performance in the community. And we will continuously oblige you to get up off that couch, that chair, that sofa, whatever you're doing, from the comfort of your home in front of this YouTube channel, and get out in that community and put forth that work. We should be able to transform all of the deep stuff that we're learning from the scriptures and in this walk into a paradigm that can resolve societal ills in our immediate communities. Because the only way that we can have peace or shalom in the cities that we live in is when we seek the peace of the city, intervene on the city on behalf of on its behalf to the Most High, and in that peace that it gets because of our seeking, we shall have peace. And if there is no peace in your city, it's because the Israelites in your city are not putting hands to the plow and putting that work in these streets. All right. We need more and more of us to do that. All right. And it's not just on the street corners talking. It's also taking care of the poor, the needy, the afflicted, the oppressed, and the foreigners that's amongst us. All right. So thank you, family, for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I want to say peace and shalom. Shalom, shalom.